Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Today we'll have Charlotte's Disney World trip. That's coming up on this episode 462 of WDW Prep To Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep To Go, where we talk strategy and ideas and have lots and lots of trip reports for people planning their Disney World trips. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 462. Today is another trip report, this time with Charlotte, who recently traveled with a 4-month-old, a 2-year-old, her parents, and her husband. And I'll have that for you in just a moment. As always, a reminder to follow on social media and also subscribe to our email list. We send out emails about usually once to twice a week, keeping you updated on everything that's going on. We don't really talk about the news on the podcast, but we do try to keep people updated via email so that you know what's happening during your trip. Most recently, Halloween party tickets on sale. We have a whole chart of all the different prices and things. So feel free to subscribe if you haven't already so we can email you when new things happen. But I don't think I have any other housekeeping. Let's dive into my chats with Charlotte. Welcome to Podcast Charlotte.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing great. We're talking on Monday, May 5th, and I understand you're headed to Florida in a couple days.
Yeah, we're going to Disney World on Wednesday, May 7th. But we actually leave tomorrow night because we're going to stay in an airport hotel tomorrow night.
Okay. So you leave home tomorrow, but you go to Disney World May 7th.
Yeah.
And how long are you staying?
So we will be there through Monday, May 12th.
Through the 12th. Okay. And who's we?
So it is me, my husband, my 2-year-old, my 4-month-old, and then my parents. But my parents are actually already in Florida. We're meeting them in Disney on Wednesday.
Okay. Do they live in Florida or they are traveling in Florida?
They live in Colorado. We live in the Quad Cities. And so tomorrow night we're driving to Chicago. We're flying out of Chicago. And then my parents were my dad had a conference. I think he's out right now. And they were visiting some friends that live in Florida. So they got there last Wednesday.
Okay. And they are going to meet up with you. Now, you just said Quad Cities, and I just coincidentally today had something that popped up in my Facebook feed that said Quad Cities, and I realized I don't know what the Quad Cities are.
Yeah, it's basically the border of Iowa and Illinois on I-80.
Okay.
My husband's from here, and I had no idea where it was either when I first met him because we met when we lived in Colorado, and I was like, I don't know where you're from.
Okay, so you live in that area, and then where are you flying out of?
Chicago. So it's about a 3-hour drive for us to O'Hare.
All right. So on May 6th, you are driving to Chicago and then staying in an airport hotel.
Yeah.
And then on May 7th, you're flying to Orlando.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right. And so would it be safe to say you started planning this while you were pregnant?
Actually, I guess we talked about it right at the end of my pregnancy. And I was like, we need to figure out how everything's going because my first son had a NICU stay. And so I was like, I just need to know. And then we kind of decided when my parents came and visited me, like to meet the baby, that we were going to book it. Yeah. So we actually started booking in like January, February time.
Okay. Is this a first trip for anybody?
The 4-month-old has not been.
Okay, sure. But everybody else has been?
Yes. Yeah, everyone else has been.
The 4-month-old, when they're older. When was your first trip? I was 4 months. Don't remember it, but I was.
Yeah. We took my 2-year-old almost the exact same. I think it was the same week last year. We just went for 2 days because I really wanted his first haircut at Magic Kingdom. So we did that. So it's a little too early for the haircut for the 4-month-old, so we won't be able to catch that.
You know what? Next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said last year you took the now 2-year-old. So what is it
Mhm.
about this time of year that makes you visit this time?
Last year, it was kind of coincidence. So last year, I girl mathed it because we got invited to go to Puerto Rico, and I saw a lot of the layovers were in
Mhm.
Orlando, and so the flights were the same price to have a 3-night layover in Orlando as they were to have a 2-hour layover. So I was like, we basically can't afford to not go to Disney last year. So it happened to be my friend's trip, just decided the dates for that. And then this year, my parents were already going. My dad had a conference that I think he's at today and yesterday. But so it kind of just coincidence that it's the exact same week.
I have girl math slash Mickey math it as well, Puerto Rico, Disney World. So future idea, I've Mickey math it that going to Cancun or like Riviera Maya area, not that far away.
Yeah, it was really nice actually because with it was like 1.5, so I feel like 2 days was like perfect, and it like broke up the flight down to Puerto
Mhm.
Rico because the flight back was we'd had a direct flight back and it was very long. So
That is long, but also a well-traveled toddler.
yeah, yeah, and he is actually really well traveled. We went to Spain last fall while I was pregnant, so my husband looked at the flight time for this one. He was like, "Oh, it's only 2.5 hours." I was like, "Yeah, not too bad."
2-year-old, yeah.
Yeah,
2-year-olds, I got this. This is easy.
yeah.
Okay, so you're flying to Orlando on the 7th, and
Mhm.
then what happens after you get to the airport?
Yeah, so my parents have a rental car right now. They're in Palm Beach area, and so they're driving to Disney. They're gonna meet us at the airport, and they are switching out their car. So they currently have a car that won't fit all of us, and so they have to go to the rental, and they're switching out for a minivan, which I really advocated for not having a rental car, and because I didn't want to have to bring car seats, but they were really on board with, they really wanted, and they are generously paying for this trip, so they really wanted a rental car, so we're going with that. But it did add, now we're bringing car seats with us, so it's like a lot of luggage. Even packing light, it's still just a lot of luggage.
It's a ton because I assume, do you also have a stroller, like a double stroller?
Yeah, we have an at the Baby Vista too that we have. So then that ends up going in 2 bags. And then we have a car seat for each kid. So like just that is 4 bags.
And the
with
kids.
four.
The
Yeah,
kids
and the kids.
themselves.
Getting to the airport is what's stressing me out. So we decided to book because I don't know, O'Hare Airport is where we're flying out of, and it's a very large airport. Like there's usually like the parking's very expensive, and so it's like usually their economy parking is like you have to take a bus to a tram, and I was like all of that luggage plus 2 kids. So we're staying at the airport hotel because it's just one shuttle. So then my husband doesn't have to drop me and the kids off, and then my parents are supposed to have already gotten the minivan by the time our flight lands so that they can come and help us at baggage claim is the plan.
Yes.
Because
So
just when you have all of the bags, I'm like, this is a lot.
no, it's getting there. It's getting there. And then once
Yeah.
you're there, you'll have some extra hands to help you, but there's just a lot going on at the beginning. Totally understand that.
Yeah.
So you said you advocated for not having a rental car. So when you went last year, you did your short trip, whatever, without a rental car.
Yeah. And
When
it
you-
was like great. We actually did bring a car seat that time because we only had one kid. We got an Uber we stayed at All Star, and it was very easy to do the buses. So this time, yeah, we'll have a rental car, but I think we're not going to use it that much. We'll see.
Yeah, but if you do, at least the car seats will just be in it. Once they're in it, then they'll just be there.
Yeah, I'm also concerned that all of our baggage, like my parents' luggage and our luggage, and the car seat takes up a lot of room, is not going to fit in the minivan, plus all the kids. So I'm like, we may end up having one of us or 2 of us in an Uber. I don't know. We'll see.
It's a puzzle, isn't it?
We're going to kind of play it by ear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So your parents are picking you up in a minivan. You may or may not all fit, whatever. Then you go to Disney World, I assume. Like, where are you staying?
Yeah. We are staying at Bay Lake Tower in a 2-bedroom villa, theme park view, which was pixie dusted. That was super exciting. We originally booked a 1-bedroom villa at Copper Creek, and they only let you book that if you're 5 people. But neither kid sleeps in
Mhm.
a bed. So my dad called. They were like, oh no, that's totally fine. Like you can have all 5 of you in the 1-bedroom villa. Totally okay. One of the kids won't show up on the reservation, but that's fine because they don't need park tickets anyway. And they were fine. He called again for some other issue and they were like, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal that one of the kids isn't on the resort. That's fine. And then he called to add Memory Maker because there was some issue with adding it online. And the person he spoke to was like, you cannot have 5 people in a 1-bedroom villa. Like that was,
You can't. You get one kid under
or
3.
6. Because we'll be 6. And yeah, so they were like, no, you cannot do that. And my dad was like, but you guys told me. So they sent
Mhm.
the guest services, which
Mhm.
my parents are British. And then I guess my dad got put through to the only British guy in guest services. And my dad explained the whole situation. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to get back to you because we're going to pull the recordings. And if we did tell you that all of you guys can go in the 1-bedroom, then we'll take care of it. Otherwise, we're going to need to figure something out. And then he said that was going to take 2 weeks to call us back and figure out what was going on. And he called back the next day and was like, so would you like a 2-bedroom villa at Bay Lake Tower?
You know what?
Because
That's gonna be fantastic.
yeah, I'm so excited. They either offered us a 2-bedroom villa at Boulder or the theme park view. My dad called me to be like, which one should we take? And I was like, theme park view, Bay Lake Tower.
Yeah.
For sure.
And those 2-bedroom villas at Bailey Tower are amazing. Like they're so spacious.
And I'm hoping we get a refurbished one because I think they're finishing up the refurbishments. So from what I've read, I think we'll get a refurbished room.
That
Yeah.
would be amazing. Nice
Yeah.
accommodations.
Yeah.
So on this day after you get to Bay Lake Tower, do you have any other plans?
We're hoping to, if we all fit in the same vehicle, we're hoping to maybe go to Disney Springs like on the way. I would love to have, because I think our flight lands at 1:00. So we're kind of thinking maybe we'll go via Disney Springs because I really want to pick up some Gideon's cookies to munch on. I did book this was totally optimistic. I don't know what I was thinking. I booked a 3:00 mini figurine at the Lego store reservation, and then we would love to eat at Polite Pig. So we'll see if that ends up happening. We might just end up going straight back to Bay Lake Tower and doing pool, but we don't have any dining reservations for this first day. It's kind of flexible. I don't know when the toddler is going to nap. Like, I don't know if we're going to have a very good mood toddler at the end of travel day or if we're going to have a little monster on our hands. So we're just going to kind of play the first day by ear.
You never know.
Yeah.
Never know. Okay, so then what is on May 8th, which is Thursday, right?
Yeah, so we are doing Epcot. I picked Thursday because I was trying to stay away from the weekend because I remembered last year Epcot in the evening got like very crowded, a lot of large groups drinking, and it was like just very overwhelming with the small kids. And so I was thinking like if we can avoid the weekend, and I mean Thursday night it still might be a little bit like that, but that's kind of why I picked Epcot for the first day.
What are your plans? Are you gonna rope shop or no?
Yeah, that's the plan, is to rope drop. So we did do Lightning multi-pass for this day, and I'm hoping to rope drop Guardians of the Galaxy and use rider swap. So my dad is not very interested in riding Frozen Ever After. So I kind of have either we might rope drop, do rider swap, and my dad and my husband go on Guardians, and then if timing works out where I think we could still manage to do rope drop with the boys, we might go to Frozen Ever After. Otherwise, I'm like, we can just go to Starbucks and there's a playground, I think, near there. So I'm kind of flexible. I have a feeling Frozen Ever After isn't going to happen, but optimistic.
It's my favorite thing to rope drop because it's not too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just depends on how long the rider swap takes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't done rider swap before, so this is going to be a whole new process.
Yeah. It doubles the time that it takes to tour. You just got to allow time for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so you've talked about lightning lanes. So you've already purchased and booked those, obviously. And your parents are paying for it. So they handled that. And did you book it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were actually traveling on Wednesday. They were like in the airport when I was booking. So I had a gift card that they wanted to use. And then my dad was very trusting and sent me his credit card details Because he was like, we'll just charge it to the account. And I was like, no, you can't do that. And I was also like trying to pre-warn him. I was like, if you get any fraud alerts or if you see all
100%.
transactions, like I can't put it through in one transaction. So I was like hoping, and we didn't end up with any of those issues, but I was really worried that it would get fraud alerted and then he would be dealing with it. But we didn't.
But it went okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got everything except on Epcot Day. I didn't get as early as I would have liked. I wanted to have Spaceship Earth at 9, somewhere in the 9-ish. And the earliest we ended up getting Nemo and Seas at 10:15 a.m. The only one that was earlier than that was is it the Pixar, the movie one? And so I just decided not to do that. So we did 10:15 at Nemo, 11:10 for Spaceship Earth, and then I chose to do an afternoon for Remy's because I'm kind of thinking we'll do front of the park in the morning and then do World Showcase in the afternoon.
So this is your first time on this Lightning Lane system. You were probably familiar with Genie Plus.
Yeah, we did use Genie Plus, and I feel like I kind of failed at it because we only had 2 days, and I just feel like I didn't get the hang of it.
Yeah, not a lot of time.
No, and yeah, because we took a trip in 2013. This was obviously before I met my husband and before I had kids as a family. And that was when they were switching from the Legacy to the Fast Pass system. And then we went on our honeymoon, my husband and I, in 2021, and there was nothing. And then we got the tail end of Genie Plus, and so now it's the new system.
Every time something new to learn.
Yeah, and it was very confusing for my dad. Like because he's a planner too. He's just not a Disney planner. Like he very much likes planning vacations. He's planned pretty extensive vacations before. And so he wanted to know what was going on. And he was like, I don't understand this at all. I can't believe that you understand this. And I was like, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, and they don't make it easy.
No.
But I have a feeling after this trip that it will all make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got your Lightning Lanes. You're planning to do the non-World Showcase parts. I haven't memorized all the names of the lands still. There's too many.
Yeah, I said front of park. We'll
I just say front of the park, non-World Showcase, whatever that's called, the world, other worlds. And that's in the morning with your Lightning Lanes.
Yeah.
Do you have dining thoughts for like lunch or breakfast?
I did not do dining at Epcot just because we really like my dad mentioned the French restaurant, quick service. And so I was like, well, we could do that for lunch or we'll just see, but it's also Flower and Garden. So I kind of figured I have in my mind that we might try and do a walk up for the Space 220 lounge. Maybe I'm kind of keeping it flexible. The only restaurant that my parents really wanted to do that I kind of vetoed was my dad really likes Tepanito. And I was like, the 2-year-old is just going to want to touch the stove the whole time. So I vetoed that, and he was kind of in agreement. I was like, maybe when he's older.
Can I tell you though, here's another idea. I think that hibachi is entertainment for 2-year-olds.
Yeah, I guess I'm just like paranoid that he's going to be trying to touch the stove the whole time.
I think it's enough distance he won't be able to because that counter is so wide.
Yeah.
And the fire can be kind of intimidating to a 2-year-old. So when I had kids that age, I would put their high chair back. Let's sit back for the fire parts and then you can move closer. But yeah, I don't think he'll touch it, but it might be entertaining if you end up there.
Yeah, we might. Maybe I've seen now that they have the 2-hour cancellation, it seems like walk up seems to be a lot more of an option. So we'll see. Maybe we'll end up there. We really liked the new barbecue in the America Pavilion. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to be flexible in dining. And then you said like the evening you thought you would do World Showcase. Does that mean the afternoon is a midday break then?
So the thing with my toddler is if he falls asleep in the stroller even for a minute, then if we go back to the room, he won't nap. And so it's kind of like we might, I don't know. It's all kind of very like I have a lot of plans and loose because last year we planned to go back on our Magic Kingdom day for a midday break. And then he fell asleep in the stroller way earlier than he usually takes a nap because I think it was a lot and he was tired. And then I knew, okay, if we go back to the room now, he's not going to nap in the room. So we stayed in the park. So that's where we're kind of on the fence. And it will be nice that we have the monorail because my dad and parents saw that Epcot special and they really want to see the fireworks. So if we end up staying in the park during the day and don't make it with the kids, my dad was like, oh, well, we can just hop on the monorail and go back for the fireworks if the whole family is not out for that.
Yeah,
So,
the theme of this trip is flexibility because you don't know.
yeah, and I'm trying to remind myself that because I've poured over touring plans and all, and I'm like, we just need to go with the flow. It's not super easy with me. I remember last year at Epcot, I was like a little upset because we didn't rope drop exactly how I had planned. And I was like, I need to let it go.
I know. I really feel like the lessons of parenting start when you're pregnant because, your whole body gets derailed by symptoms and, whatever. And then the baby arrives and it's like my whole schedule, it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're very much in that phase right now. It'll be different when they're a little bit older. Okay, so you may or may not take a midday break, and then the evening will be focused on the World Showcase, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I also booked standby skippers. I'm really hoping I'm going to plan to set that to try and look for a Frozen Ever After Lightning Lane as soon as we check in for our first. So we'll see if we get that. Last year, it sold out like first thing in the morning. If you didn't book it at 7 a.m., it was like gone.
Even if they sell out or they appear to be sold out, standby skipper can keep looking for when people drop it or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. So
yeah, so that is nice. Okay, so anything else on Thursday before we move on to Friday?
No, I don't. Nope.
Okay, what's your thoughts or plans on Friday?
So I booked Lightning Lane multi-pass for all of the days. So we have Peter Pan booked for 9:30 a.m., Pirates of the Caribbean booked at 10:15 a.m., and then Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin booked for 4 p.m. And then the only individual Lightning Lane that I booked was Tron at 7:35. And then, so we're planning on rope dropping Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which this is Magic Kingdom is changed. It's rope drop. And I was planning on rope dropping Seven Dwarfs Mine Train with rider swap. And then those of us with the kids were going to go to Winnie the Pooh. And now I don't know how this is going to work.
You can still do that.
Yeah. I'm kind of bummed because last year I was like, oh, if we had a bigger group, then we could send someone with a stroller to the front and then the other two go get Starbucks. And I don't know if that's going to be possible with the way that they're doing rope drop now. I don't know if you can send some people ahead and then others. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it would probably just depend on which thing you're lining up for. But you can, you're going to walk, I guess you're walking past Starbucks on the way in, so you could do that. But of course, there will probably be a line.
So we'll see. We're also going to be getting groceries for the room and hopefully doing breakfasts and coffee in the room. So.
Can we talk about the groceries for the room? Because is that being delivered or are you going to go get them in the rental car?
So this is my parents where they live. They don't have grocery delivery. They live pretty rurally. And so they're like, no, they just haven't gotten behind the whole grocery delivery. So my baby's formula is sold at Target and not sold elsewhere. And so I just placed a Target delivery order for diapers, his formula, and nursery water for the formula. And so I have that and I can add things to it. But then my older son has to have A2 milk. He doesn't do well with standard dairy. I don't know. And Target was sold out of that. So I'm advocating that we're going to do grocery delivery, but I don't have the groceries lined up yet. I think we might when I meet up with my parents, I'll just get my phone out and be like, what do you want me to add? Because I keep calling and being like, what do you guys want for groceries? And they're like, we're just going to go the day of. And we don't need to waste time going to the grocery store. So we'll see. They might run out. I saw that the milk that my son drinks is sold. I know it's sold at Costco, but I don't think we need bulk items for this trip. So it's also sold at Publix and Sprouts. So one of those will probably either Instacart from one of those or someone from our party will run out.
Okay. And then I assume that would be delivered on your first day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Target order is set to deliver between 2 and 3, and nothing's refrigerated because the formula is not refrigerated. That can just be delivered to Bell Services. But yeah. And then the groceries, I think I'm hoping to just place an Instacart order the day of once I meet up with my parents with everything they want and everything we need.
Okay. All right. So going back to Friday, where we were
Mhm.
talking about how you were beginning your Magic Kingdom day,
Yeah.
what you have your rope drop kind of ideas.
Yeah. So Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Winnie the Pooh, just because they're across from each other, is what I was thinking. And then I think we're gonna make our way around Fantasyland. So do It's a Small World, Under the Sea. So I just measured my 2-year-old today, and he's right around 36 inches. And my husband and my dad really want to get him on Barnstormer. I'm very skeptical it's going to be a good idea, but I think we're going to see if he gets the height requirement, and I may or may not. We may or may not be traumatizing. I,
You might love it.
he's very adventurous. Like, he climbs everything and is not scared of heights. I'm not so sure about the speed thing. So we'll see. And also the baby can't go on it. So we would have to, rider swap that too.
Or just send
Yeah.
him with an adult or two.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see.
I guess the good news on that one is that the 2-year-old can see it.
Yeah.
So he can tell if am I into this or not?
Yeah. And I was like, we're not going to point out the ride and hype him up for it and even say it's an option until we see if he's the right height.
Oh, right.
Because he's right on the cusp. And I've heard people that have measured their toddlers at home and been like, oh, they're for sure going to ride this ride. And then, like, when they get to the stick at the park, like, the cast member says no. And so I was like, the attraction is going to be the measuring stick if we're walking over there. And then we can hype him up once we know he's able to go on it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. But
Yeah.
hopefully he is tall enough so at least there's an option.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, he was like, when I was measuring, it was really hard to measure a toddler, and I measured him a couple times today, and he was like between 35 and 36. So we'll see. I guess he's right on the cusp. So I'm not like betting that he'll be allowed on.
And you've talked about doing rider switch. Are you doing the rider switch system Disney has, or are you just switching within your group because you all have lighting lanes?
Well, if we have a lightning lane, then we'll just switch around. But if we don't have a lightning lane, then, like, when we rope drop, I'm planning on using Disney's
rider switch. Okay.
Rider swap. Yeah.
Okay. So kind of a combo.
Yeah.
All right. Then it sounds like your morning is pretty focused on Fantasyland.
Yeah. And then, again, it'll kind of be, does he fall asleep? Since we're so close, I would like to get him back for a nap because I really want to do fireworks in the park that night. We might be pulling out all the stops to make sure he stays awake until we get back to the room, because I'd love for him to take a really good nap so that we can stay out later. He's been doing a lot better. Like, last year, he was very much melting down by bedtime. And now, like, last night we went out to a tulip festival and got back late, and he was totally fine. He wasn't like melting down. So I'm hopeful that he'll be a bit better about staying out late. My husband took them to the zoo on Saturday, and he did really well at the zoo. And then we went to this tulip festival yesterday, and they had a little tractor ride, and he went on it. And I'm kind of worried at the end of rides about just transitions with a toddler. No, we can't go again. And the tractor ride yesterday, at the end of the ride, he was like, more? And we were like, nope, all done. And then he was like, okay, all done.
I like that you're doing the signs for it.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, that actually went really well. That was a good test. This little tractor ride. He really liked that. And he was fine at the ending. So I'm like, hopefully this is all good indicators.
What I love about the theme park view hotel rooms, families with young kids, is that even if you do have to be back because they have to go to bed, you can still be out.
Yeah.
Watching fireworks, having a chill moment. You don't feel like you're totally removed from the action.
Yeah, my dad was asking if we should add theme park tickets on for the first day, because the extended magic hours for deluxe is on the first night we arrive. And I was like, I really just I don't think we'll make use of it. And I was like, and we can still watch the fireworks from our room. It was really nice. So yeah, I was like, that's such a selling point. Because I also heard that the theme park room views have channeled the music into the balconies.
They do. You can turn on the TV.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's nice. Kids in bed.
Yeah.
Head out there. Extend your evening past their bedtime.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so on this day, you haven't really mentioned dining either. So is that kind of like your Epcot day where you're just going to be flexible and figure it out?
Yeah, I did book a Tony's Town Square for 5:55 p.m. because we really liked that, like sitting outside. So I've got that on there. And then, yeah, then I would like to do the parade as well at 3 p.m. And so if we are in the parks, then I'd like to watch from Frontierland. And if we go back for a nap, my plan is to watch the parade from the front of the park and get in time to watch the parade.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll keep my fingers crossed that you get to stay up and watch fireworks with the toddler. What is Saturday, May 10th?
That is Animal Kingdom. This one I'm not planning to rope drop just because hopefully we'll be out late the night before with fireworks. And so I did Animal Kingdom on this day so that I felt like Animal Kingdom was a lot more achievable to do without rope dropping. So I booked Kilimanjaro Safari for 8:30 a.m. and then Everest at 9:20, which obviously the boys won't be able to go on. So we'll just kind of take turns as adults doing that. And then Navi River Journey at 10:25. So yeah, I put in my notes, like plan for relaxing morning arrive to park for Kilimanjaro safaris. And then I really want to do the train that goes out to, is it Rafiki's Planet Watch? And like really take time walking through all of the trails with my son. I like don't mention the baby very often. The baby just kind of
They don't have much of a personality yet.
no, he's just coming along. He'll be there for everything. But yeah, I'm really excited for the toddler to be able to walk around. He's like getting to the point where he follows directions when he's out of the stroller. So I think on trails and stuff, he'll be able to walk and
It's a great space for little ones.
Yeah.
This is also why younger kids are usually more chill too, because they just have to go along with whatever everybody else is doing.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is I'm like, I really haven't, I don't know. Two, he doesn't remember much anyway, but even today someone was asking him, like, are you going to go on an airplane? And like, I don't even think he knows that he's about to go on an airplane. We haven't talked much about it.
Time is a hard concept at
Yeah.
that age.
Yeah. Bedtime's in 2 weeks and
Yeah, at this time you have to be like, okay, we have one more sleep
yeah,
until we drive to Chicago.
Yeah.
And then one more sleep till we get on an airplane.
yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm excited to see all the animals with him. And then, yeah, I also at some point we're going to try and figure out if he likes shows. So we might do that. I think, what is it? The show in the Seas Pavilion at Epcot is easy to kind of step out if he's not into it.
Turtle Talk.
Yeah. And so I'm like, maybe we'll do that and see if he likes the shows. There's like a couple options for shows at Magic Kingdom because I really want to do Lion King.
Yes, I bet I'll like that.
Yeah, but then I'm like on the fence as to whether or not he would be able to sit through the Nemo, which I'd like to see the new one. So we'll just kind of see.
That one's a little bit harder, but I think Lion King seems safer.
Yeah. I'd like to do that. And so I am scared of birds. And so when we didn't go to Animal Kingdom last year. We just did Epcot and Magic Kingdom. But then when we went on a honeymoon, we did go to Animal Kingdom, my husband and I. And my husband really likes birds. And so I just didn't even mention that there was a bird show. And he found out about it watching one of I think it was like the Animal Kingdom show. And he was like, I didn't know there was a bird show at Animal Kingdom. And I was like, oh, it's because I didn't mention it. Because like I won't go in the aviary. Like I really don't like birds. So we may or may like my husband really wants to do the Feathered Friends show. So we'll see. I made
he can do
that.
You go to Nomad Lounge and he can watch the birds.
Yeah, I think that's the game plan. I'm like that, or we might do. I said also might do Nomad Lounge while some people are waiting for Flight of Passage. So like we would all present at the front of Flight of Passage, do the rider swap, and then those of us that are waiting would go have a drink at Nomad Lounge. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, my husband would really like to do. And he's like excited about the aviary. He remembers the aviary last time we went on our honeymoon. I really tried. I like stepped into the aviary and there was a big bird on the path. And I was like, nope, I'm out. I'll wait for you to be done.
That is not a good place to be if you're afraid of birds. No. I'm glad you have plans. I also love that as you're talking about like riders switching or switching off on rides, that you're talking about what you're going to do. The people who aren't riding the ride, what they're going to do. Because I think that's so important to have a plan for what's nearby because there's no reason to sit and wait.
Yeah, and if my understanding too is that you don't necessarily have to go. The people that didn't ride don't have to go back to back, right?
They don't have to go back to back.
So that's what I was like thinking with Magic Kingdom or like the Guardians of the Galaxy is like, while the park's still empty, we would keep doing things while the lines are low, and then the people that didn't get to ride would go back once the lines start building.
Totally doable. But you have a plan for while they're on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, the others can be at Winnie the Pooh. While they're at Guardians of the Galaxy, we'll be at, Starbucks or whatever it is. Like, that is smart. Everybody has something they can be happy with.
Yeah. Because I definitely don't want to, I don't know, the toddler does not do well just like waiting around. I think that's a pretty universal toddler thing.
But as you're exiting Soarin', this is my number one spot. I see this. When you're exiting Soarin', there are so many benches and like a big waiting area, and it's full of toddlers.
And you could just jump on Living.
And I'm like, Living with Land's right there. It's in the same building. It just frustrates me because I'm like, those kids are getting restless, and 2-year-olds are so busy.
Yeah, especially because there you don't have the stroller, because I don't think you can take strollers in. That was one of the things. I don't know where so we've been to Disney World quite a few times through. We were never like a yearly Disney people, but we went, I don't know, through stages. And he was like, no, they can just sit in the stroller through the lines. Like, it doesn't matter if we're waiting in a long line. And I was like, I don't know where you've gotten that from, because that was definitely never a thing at any point in my childhood. So that was like how I was explaining. I was like, no, we need the lightning lanes, because the toddler does not, if it's over 20 minutes, we're not waiting in line with a toddler.
No,
It's not worth it.
I totally get that. And I think that one of the interesting things about Epcot is that so many spaces have so many individual buildings, and most of them have some sort of play area that's good for toddlers. But like you said, the stroller can't go in.
Yeah.
So I guess pros and cons, really.
Yeah, that was really hard last year because my toddler is still crawling. We thought when we booked it, we thought he would be walking by then, and he was a little bit of a late walker. And so having a crawling toddler was really difficult without a stroller.
Having a new walker is also really hard, as you now know.
Yeah, now he's a
wild. They're like little drunk people.
Yeah. And
yeah, so yes, and now, like you said, now he's a runner. That's hard too.
Yeah, I do have the leash for him. I don't know if he has been listening really well, and we don't need to use it at home, but I have it for the airport. I also am putting an air tag on my son. I ordered the temporary tattoos that have. I didn't want his name on the temporary tattoo because I don't want a stranger to know his name. So it just says on there, if lost, please call. And then it says mom, my phone number, and dad, my husband's. And then we've got an air tag. It's almost like a security tag from the store. You need a magnet to undo the pin. And then the air tag goes in it, and we're planning on putting that in. And then we're also going to put an air tag in the stroller for finding the stroller.
That kid's not going anywhere. He's not getting lost.
No.
You're going to push the button on your phone, find my kid.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so Animal Kingdom, we've got a lot of your plans discussed. What else you got?
So on the night, this is the night that we're planning on doing a date night, my husband and I. So my dad originally booked to go to Rainforest Cafe at Animal Kingdom with the boys. And I was like, what I suggested, we ended up canceling because I was like, I don't think that Rainforest Cafe is worth sitting through a sit-down dinner with a toddler for. I was like, the payoff of having to sit through a whole dinner with a toddler versus like the food you're going to get, I was just like, I don't think that it's going to be worthwhile. So my plan is that we all go back to the resort, and then they have an evening with the two boys. I suggested that they either get on a boat and go over to Wilderness Lodge and eat dinner over there, or get on the monorail and eat dinner at one. But I wanted them to be able to not have to collapse the stroller, not have to worry about that. So so I think at kind of mid-afternoon, we'll all go back to the resort, and then my parents will have the two boys, and then my husband and I have dinner reservations at 7:30 for the Boathouse at Disney Springs.
Okay. That's nice.
We went there on our honeymoon, and we really liked it. Yeah.
It's a pretty popular one, so that's nice.
Yeah. And being from Chicago, I don't know if you know this, but it's owned by Gibson's Steakhouse, which is a really nice steakhouse in Chicago. That's what like made me book it originally. So we're planning on getting steak. We're really excited.
Did not realize it was the same some of the best food I've ever had has been in Chicago, so
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't surprise me. Okay, Sunday, May 11th.
So that's our Hollywood Studios day. And it's Mother's Day. So we have Alien Swirling Saucers at 9:30, Toy Story Mania at 10:15, and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at 3 p.m. My dad is pretty into Star Wars. We're gonna rope, and my husband also really likes Star Wars, so we're gonna rope drop Rise of the Resistance. And I think my mom would really enjoy that. My mom is funny. She says she hates roller coasters, but she likes Disney roller coasters. So I don't think she's going to go on Tron because she was like, all Disney roller coasters are inside. And then when I described Tron, she was like, oh, I definitely don't like that. But she'll do roller coasters that are indoors. So I think my mom would enjoy that too.
Okay, I really want to break this down though. She'll do roller coasters or indoor because I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy is a pretty intense roller coaster. It is indoors though.
But she also she loves Rock and Roller Coaster. But if you took that same roller coaster, put it outdoors, if we go to Six Flags or other theme parks, she will not do the intense roller coasters that are outside. I don't know. I think it's something about not seeing the ground.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say Expedition Everest is really big. So that's beyond what you would typically see in an indoor coaster. So I was like, maybe it's the height of it.
And I actually don't know if she'll do Everest. We'll see. She's not into outdoor roller coasters, but we'll do indoor ones.
Does that include Slinky Dog?
I don't know either because I'm kind of on the fence as to whether or not we'll get on Slinky Dog because I didn't do it as a lightning lane since all of us can do Mickey and Minnie's, I chose that one. And then we're rope dropping Star Wars kind of area. So I'm on the fence as to whether or not they're gonna do Slinky Dog.
So you said you're rope dropping Rise of Resistance though. Is that that's just part of your group that's doing it?
Yeah, so it'll be rider swap and then probably plan to go back. But then it's hard because I think you can only have one rider swap at a time. And Smuggler's Run is also height requirement. Yeah, I don't know if you have any ideas for doing Hollywood Studios with little kids because there's a lot that's not. We're pretty much even. My parents are in agreement that Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror because they've been on it before. They just want to go. They just want to go on stuff that they haven't seen before. So the last time they went was 2013. So Seven Dwarfs Mine Train's new, pretty much Avatar is new. There's quite a lot new at Epcot, and then a lot new at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, Smuggler's Run has single rider. So if you want to save time, I mean, you do miss the queue that way, most of the queue, but it would be an option if you can't use another rider switch yet to at least save time.
Yeah.
Just there's obviously some downsides to that, but
yeah, we'll see. And then it's also, I'm really excited to watch my parents go on these rides that they haven't been on before. I'm excited to see their excitement. But then I don't want my husband to always be the one that's waiting with the kids. So we'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, you'll figure out your rhythm with this particular trip. Okay. So what else on this Hollywood Studios day?
We have Oga's booked at 11:30 and I'm hoping to get a high top.
Why?
Because of the booth, or not a high top, the booth high top.
Oh, non-high top. You want a booth.
I don't know why I thought that the booths were high top, but yeah, I'm hoping to get a booth.
Yeah, the high tops are just tall tables with no chairs.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be challenging.
It's very challenging because kids are just left underneath.
Yeah, but we're a party of 6, so I think that
you can occupy a whole booth, hopefully.
Yeah.
That would be great. I just think it's really unfortunate that they did it that way.
I know. And it's also, I was honestly kind of trying to advocate for not doing Ogas at all, but my dad and my husband are both Star Wars people. And so they were singing the little tune.
Yeah.
They were really excited about it. And then when I mentioned, we're probably not going to do that, they were like, no, we have to do it.
Well, maybe the two of them can do it if it comes down to it.
That's what I'm kind of thinking.
Because if you have a reservation for the whole group and 2 check in, that's totally fine.
Yeah. So I'm even maybe I'll take the boys. Actually, I don't think I can get on a bus by myself with the two boys in the stroller, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my mom and I go with the boys somewhere else and just send my husband, my dad to there. So
You'll figure it out. Or just somewhere else in Hollywood Studios if you have to.
yeah.
Okay. What else? Do you think a midday break this day, or do you not know?
I would like to do a midday break because we have a 5 p.m. dinner at Hollywood Brown Derby Phantasmic dining package booked. So I haven't mentioned my mom at all very much because she's kind of just been like, I'll do anything. But this was like, she had no request of anything to do other than eat at Hollywood Brown Derby. I don't know if it's like a restaurant because she also went before she had kids with her parents. And so I think Hollywood Brown Derby is just one of those restaurants that it's the only, like one of those things that sticks out. And we decided since we're eating there anyway to just do it as a Phantasmic dining package. So I'd like to take a nap this day and a midday break so that we can do Phantasmic. But again, we're all open to it. Because also like if we find out that my toddler like does not sit through shows, then and it's late, we might just be like, okay, do they give you the option of just turning it into a regular reservation if you show up?
No, I mean, you can ask, but they're kind of considered different reservations and like even different like pools of reservations. So a lot of people will book let's say someone books a Brown Derby just by itself. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just convert it to a Phantasmic dining package. They're kind of different categories.
That's why I booked the Phantasmic because I didn't think that we would have the option to like, I kind of figured it'd be easier to drop the Phantasmic, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I would really like to do Phantasmic because it was not available when we went on our honeymoon and then we didn't go last year. So I haven't seen Phantasmic since I went in 2013.
Yeah. It's hasn't been around since the before times for too long. All right. So obviously you're saying through Phantasmic, hopefully.
Yeah.
Any other evening plans between dinner and Phantasmic?
No, I think my husband would get a kick out of the Indiana Jones show. So again, like if we think we can do shows, my husband and I really enjoyed the Frozen show. So it's just going to be kind of dependent on if shows are part of our trip, which I think by this day we'll know for sure whether or not he can sit through shows.
Yes, we talk a lot about figuring out if your kids are into rides because a lot of people don't know until they're there if their kid's into coasters, if their kid's afraid of the dark or whatever. But the shows are definitely one when you have toddlers.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to do them or not.
Yeah. I mean, some like them, some don't.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I have planned for the Hollywood Studios day.
And then the next day?
Yeah. And then we depart on the Monday. We have afternoon flights. So I've booked Topolino Terrace and I don't have written on my notes. I can look it up, but it's booked for 10 o'clock or something like that.
Topolino's breakfast. This is your only character meal that you've booked?
Yeah. And I figure by this point too, we'll have opportunities to meet characters in the park and know whether or not he likes characters. Cause we were really considering doing Chef Mickey's on our arrival night. And I just said, I was like, I've heard the food's I'm not a fan of buffets at all. And I've heard like mixed reviews on Chef Mickey's. And then I couldn't even guarantee that my toddler would be into the characters and it's so expensive. So we decided to not do that on arrival night. And then I figured we'll know if he likes the characters or not by the time we're on departure day. So
yeah. And it is good food.
Yeah, I was like, even if he doesn't like the characters, it's a really good meal because we've been there before.
And not a buffet.
Yeah. I think it's hard to do buffets with toddlers. Like the idea of going to a buffet with a toddler and a baby, two adults pretty much have to be back at the table at all times. And I don't know, plus you add in characters to that. I'm like, that's a really challenging experience.
It is a juggling act. So when a lot of these buffets went to plated meals during the reopening and everything, I was hoping they would stay that way because I'm like, it's so much easier for almost everybody.
Yeah, when Chef Mickey's was family style, I was like, that sounds great. But now that it's a buffet, if it was family style, we probably would have booked it for the first night. But because it's a buffet, it just did not seem appetizing.
Because the buffets, even if you don't have toddlers, the buffets are still tricky because you're juggling trips to the buffet with characters coming around. So add on the fact that you have an infant and a toddler, and
Yeah.
now it's just a circus.
Yeah. And I have a hard time picking what I'm eating at restaurants, but I like that once you pick something, you're getting like a whole plate of it and it like all goes together. I just get really overwhelmed with buffets and I end up putting like a little bit of everything on my plate. And then I almost feel like I eat less at buffets than when I just get one plate because I'm like, I don't know what I like and I'm like picking at things and I don't know.
But there was a trip report recently, I think it's at the time of recording this, but if it's not, it will be soon, where someone traveled with a bunch of teenage boys and the buffets were a godsend because of how much they eat. So your life in 10 or 12 years might be, hey, we love buffets.
Yeah, for sure. Because I've got 2 boys. We'll see.
Yes. So it just might depend on your phase.
Yeah.
All right. So Topolino's breakfast and then your afternoon flights. Are you driving from Riviera to the airport then?
I think so. Yeah. Because if all of our luggage doesn't fit, then that'll be a whole, I don't know, other thing. But we'll see.
You'll know on arrival
We'll
day
know by then and have a plan.
if it all fits.
Yeah. I'm really skeptical. My parents talked about dropping their luggage off at Bell Services before coming to the airport. But they have some plans for things that they're doing not in the Orlando area that morning. So I'm skeptical that they're going to have enough time to drop off their luggage and then come to us because I will be expressing to them that my higher priority would be that they're there to like just be hands, get to baggage claim versus because I don't mind hopping in an Uber or a Lyft if the bags don't all fit. But having extra hands with the boys would be really helpful.
And you mentioned that your parents don't have grocery delivery where they live. Do they also not have things like Uber and Lyft?
I mean, so they live in a small mountain town and they live like 25 minutes outside of the town. So there's Uber and Lyft in town.
Okay.
I've technically got an Uber back from town to their house when I was living there, but it's not really a thing.
It's not part of their normal routine.
No, grocery delivery is not part. And then also because they live in a small mountain town, like even grocery pickup, all the grocery stores are really hit and miss for what they have in stock. My husband and I used to live there. And when we first got the grocery pickup, it was super exciting because it was like, oh, this new thing. But then you would order your groceries and then 5 items wouldn't be in. And so then it was super frustrating because I'm like, now I have to go to the grocery store anyway because now I have to, or like now I've gotten half the things I need for this dinner and I can't. So it was just like where they live, you really have to grocery shop in person because if they're out of, say, sometimes they're out of chicken breast at the grocery store where they live. And then you have to completely change
what?
Because, okay, that was the main ingredient in the chicken.
Of course, you can't make a whole dish if you don't have that. But now that it sounds like you do live somewhere that has that. So I'm sure with 2 little ones, you appreciate it.
Yeah, I haven't gone to a grocery store in months. Definitely it's not in the postpartum period.
No. Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad that you'll have that, but you can help them figure out that part of it.
Yeah, it really does work well.
It does usually, yeah.
But I think when you're used to going to a store and kind of, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to make a wild guess that I am in the same age range as your parents, and I am very thankful for grocery delivery. I don't go to the grocery store either.
Yeah. Then the other aspect of it too is that they don't have like Target by them. And so my mom really enjoys like walking around Target because it's not something, their closest Target is an hour and a half from them. So like
it's a novelty. We just take it for granted when it's right around the corner, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think I could not do Target. My son has now recognized the Starbucks symbol, both when we're driving and at Target, and asks for cake pops. I see cake pops being a big part of our trip at Disney too.
I love it. They're so good.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything about your trip that we haven't covered?
I don't think so. I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a fantastic time. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes, seeing what rhythm you figure out with the group. And I'll talk to you when we get back.
Oh, I guess though, I haven't mentioned the baby at all. The logistical question of like how we're doing formula and like prepping. I am planning on using the baby care centers to wash bottles in the park. I think because just bringing like enough bottles and then having 6 dirty bottles at the end of the day. So I'm bringing like a baby bottle brush into the park and dish soap so that hopefully I can wash bottles. I'm probably going to bring 2 or 3 bottles into the park, and then we'll probably have to wash them. Just
Okay.
don't worry.
That's good to know. That's not a use of the baby care centers that I've heard mentioned. So I'm glad that you mentioned and that'll be available.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Charlotte.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome back from your trip, Charlotte.
Hey, thank you.
We're talking now on Thursday, May 15th, and you got back 3 days ago.
Yes.
How'd your trip go?
It was really good. We had some interruptions with weather, and then our trip was quite impacted by technical ride closures, but overall it was a really good trip. Not that my toddler or baby had any clue that was going on, so they had a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, they're oblivious, which is kind of nice, but the adults, unfortunately, are not. So let's start walking through it so we can hear more about it. Tuesday, May 6th, you drove to Chicago and stayed overnight so you could fly out Wednesday, May 7th.
Yep, that went really well. I don't know if I would recommend the hotel we stayed at. It was a much older hotel, but it was fine. And it was another one of those, I called when I made the reservation, said we needed 2 cribs, then called the day of to confirm we got 2 cribs, got in the room, there's only 1 crib, and I went to the front desk and I was like, hey, we need another crib. And they were like, well, let us see if it's available. It's not good. I called ahead because we really need 2 cribs, but they were able to deliver a 2nd crib. So that was good. But yeah, it's challenging with like limited availability of cribs.
It is. I think that's why some people will choose to pay for rental because then it's guaranteed, but it would be nice if it was just available and right there.
Yeah, for sure. But got to the airport. So I forgot to mention in the pre-trip that our day of travel was the first day that they were enforcing Real ID at the airports. And I was really concerned about this. So usually we probably would have gotten to the airport like 2, maybe 2.5 hours early. Our flight was at 9:15. And so they asked us what time we wanted to get on a shuttle. And I was like, let's get on the 6 a.m. shuttle because I just want to be prepared because we had checked. We also brought our passports as well as our IDs. I had copies of birth certificates. I had a copy of our marriage license. I keep everything when we travel just in case. But I was like, everyone else may not be prepared. We also have TSA pre-check. And we had the best TSA experience that I think we've ever had. I think that they were getting audited that day. There were like people in suits taking notes behind all the TSA desks. And they were like, can we help you with this? And like, how can we help you? And I was like, this is the best TSA experience you've ever had.
At the airport where you flew out, were separate lines like in Orlando for TSA versus non-TSA?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you see a noticeable difference in those lines?
I wouldn't say there, because it's hard because at O'Hare, it's almost like they have between these desks is TSA pre-check and then you go down further and it's hard to compare because we didn't even really see what the line for non-TSA pre-check looked like.
Because I was just curious if the non-TSA lines were slower like you anticipated because of Real ID and then the TSA would have not been maybe?
Yeah, we've had some of our worst security experiences at O'Hare through all of our travels. So it just makes me nervous every time we traveled that we had the best that day.
Yeah.
They were on it. They were great. So we got through security really easily, went and got Starbucks. I hid a cake pop. My son loves cake pops. And I mobile ordered because I do mobile order in the airport. And I got a cake pop and was able to stash it in our cooler that we brought. So that came in perfect when we were like landing and he was starting to kind of not be as happy. And I was just able to pull out this cake pop. That was good. But yeah, the whole process went really smoothly. It was challenging. We have an Up-A-Baby Vista and I chose to like travel with it in a bag. And so that whole process of needing to get it in the bag is always a little cumbersome, but it went really well. And we got on the flight, we pre-boarded. Yeah. And then getting off the flight was, again, pretty easy. Traveling down there, we didn't have any issues.
And I know that your parents are picking you up at the airport. You had this stretch where you had the kids by yourself and then all the gear, but it sounds like you figured it out.
Yeah, it went really smoothly. So my tip is making sure that like you don't have more luggage than you can carry by yourself. So like we had a diaper bag, a cooler, and then a personal item sized duffel. And we could carry all of that and the kids with and without the stroller. We couldn't carry our checked luggage without the stroller. But my husband put the baby in the carrier, was able to like hold hands with the toddler, and then we also had my toddler's car seat in a backpack. And so we were able to carry everything, because we've previously had experiences where we really struggled to carry because we had carry-on suitcases and just too much luggage. So I really pared back how much we brought.
Yeah, it sounds like you pared back how much you brought, but also probably just checked
Yeah.
more than you would have if you didn't have the kids with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to Orlando and your parents picked you up, I assume.
Yeah. So actually, I called them when we like landed. I called my mom. They said they had to put $5 of gas into their car before they returned their other rental car. And then my dad dropped my mom off at the gate. She actually picked up all of our luggage before we even got off the plane. So by the time we got to her, she had our 2 suitcases. She kept calling me and being like, is this the one? I don't want people thinking I'm stealing that. She wasn't super sure what our luggage looked like, but she was able to get all of our bags. So by the time we got to her, she had our luggage already. And then I did keep one change of clothing that was like our emergency, because I've been thrown up on a plane by my toddler before. So I kept one set, and it was also like, this is the clothing we want to be in for better weather. And so while we were waiting for my dad with the minivan, I changed both my boys, and then my husband and I changed into like summer clothing. And then my dad arrived. We did fit everything into the minivan.
Good news. Because that was going to be awkward if you couldn't fit.
It took quite a lot. There was a lot of luggage. The people that were directing traffic were being very generous with us with how much time we could have at the pickups. There was luggage everywhere, and we were like taking strollers apart. But we got everything in. My 2 kids were in the captain's seat. I was in the front because we had really bad turbulence on the way down, and I got very nauseous. And so I was in the front, and then my husband and my mom were like wedged into 2 seats in the back because one of them was down, and my husband had like a stroller wheel in his face. But it made it work.
But you just needed to get to Bay Lake Tower.
Yeah, so we didn't go to Disney Springs on the way. Just the car was so packed. Let's just go straight to Bay Lake Tower. Got to Bay Lake Tower. I think the app was malfunctioning that day because I checked on the way and see if we had been assigned a room, and it said we hadn't. Got there, Bell Services helped us. They were phenomenal. We went in to go see if they had a room ready for us. So I was like, I don't know if they will because we haven't been assigned. And she was like, oh yeah, you have already been assigned a room. Here's your room. And I was like, oh, that must have happened between looking and you checking. And then when I checked the app again after she checked us in the app, it still wasn't showing our room. So I wasn't really
Your
sure what
question
happened.
was, you said, I don't know if my Disney experience was having glitches or whatever. Probably.
Yeah, it's like a continued. My dad was definitely getting frustrated with the app throughout the trip, and I just kept being like, I've heard it glitches a lot. This is not like my app would do stuff, and then he'd be like, well, how are you seeing that? And then I would try and do it on his phone, and it wasn't happening on his phone. And so, yeah, the app was.
It frustrates me because like you knew that the app was probably glitching, but first timers usually blame themselves.
Yeah.
And but you did have a room, and was it available sooner than you expected?
Yeah, it was available when we got there. Let me see if I put in my notes what time. We must have gotten there around 2:00 because we unpacked and then drove to Disney Springs around 4:35-ish.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
good. Okay, so what'd you think of the 2-bedroom villa when you got there?
It was so spacious, really big. I loved having in-room washer, dryer. The kitchen was really well stocked, other than there were no scissors in the kitchen. I wonder if that was like an oversight. But yeah, everything was great. The only like criticism we would have is it was fine for our party. We were 4 adults and 2 kids. But if you had full capacity, there wasn't really enough seating in the living room if you had more adults, because the couch is like for 2 people, and then there's one kind of tiny little armchair. And we're like, well, if you had either older kids or just more adults, then it just feels like they didn't put enough seating in the living room for like how large the unit is. But my parents like even though we didn't use it, they thought that the Murphy bed situations, like both the single and the double, were like great. Our room, me and my husband with the kids took the room with the two queen, I think there's 2 queen beds, and there was we had 2 cribs in there, and there was plenty of room to get around even with the 2 cribs. And then yeah, my parents basically had a pool in their bathroom with the jacuzzi tub. Yeah, it was great. And we loved having the second full bathroom in the living room area too, because we were able to shower after putting the kids to bed and not worry about like waking them up.
Great. So it's a good setup. And did your groceries arrive around this time?
They arrived while we were unpacking. So we kind of unpacked and then went down and got the groceries. My mom and I just walked down and picked them up because I couldn't remember. I had in the back of my head that they charge for grocery delivery. Maybe they wouldn't have because they were super helpful, but my mom and I just walked down and went and picked up the groceries.
It's kind of inconsistent.
Yeah.
Like they'll say, yeah, we'll charge you a certain amount for all your groceries, and other of the Disney hotels will say that much per bag. You just never really know.
Yeah, so we were fine to just go down and get it.
So you got your groceries, and then I think you started to talk about going to Disney Springs around 4:30.
Yeah, so we drove to Disney Springs. I said and our GPS took us a really weird back way. We drove past Golden Oaks, and it seemed like a very long journey. I don't know why the GPS took us that way, because we took the way that Disney probably would have liked us to take on the way back, and it was way quicker. That was kind of odd. But yeah, we went past Golden Oaks and the Four Seasons to get there.
Big creative route.
Yeah, which has happened before. I think when we took our trip in 2013, we drove from Chicago down there, and our GPS took us, there must have been traffic or something, and our GPS took us in the back way, and which was anticlimactic when you're driving all that way and then you don't even see the Disney sign. You're seeing like employee entrances and things like that.
Yes, 100%. What did you do in Disney Springs?
We went to Polite Pig. So I knew we needed to park in the Lime parking garage. So we parked in the Lime parking garage. We ate at Polite Pig.
You can't get any closer.
No.
Those two are so right next to each other.
Yeah, I was glad I knew which parking lot to park at.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to link to our article in the comments because I'm very passionate about this. So we have an article that says, this is the parking garage for doing this thing, because there's so many different spots in Disney Springs.
Yeah, it's a very big area, because my parents are still familiar with the old terms. So I was like, downtown Disney's over there, and then over there is where Pleasure Island used to be. And then where we were at, they were like, this is brand new. We've never seen this before, which I was like, that would be accurate.
Yeah. So Polite Pig was first. How was it?
It was really good. I really enjoyed it. But we had to sit outside. So the baby was asleep in the stroller, and they don't allow strollers inside. So we sat outside, and then we didn't really pick a very good table because like then the sun was in our eyes. And also until my parents are very familiar with my kids, but they have never been to a restaurant with my toddler. And so because they were excited to see the toddler sat between them, and it was like just trying to direct them on how to help him and stuff like that. It would have been better probably if we had sat the toddler between my husband and me, just so my parents could kind of see how we do things. But yeah, it went really well. The servers there were excellent, because my husband kept getting up to go get things, and then someone would come to the table, and 2 times we accidentally asked, and as the server was coming back with what we needed, my husband also came back with what we needed.
But also, it's interesting that they have servers because it's a quick service.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily expect that level of service, but they do help.
Yeah. And so my toddler was getting antsy, which I don't blame him, because we had a whole travel day. And so my mom took him to go kind of walk around while we were getting our food packed up and like just getting all of our stuff packed up. And the server came over. I was just going to down my drink. And the server was like, would you like a to-go cup for that drink? And I was like, yes, I would like a to-go cup. That sounds great. So that was great. But while we were packing up, my mom had an incident with the balloon person. So my mom's scared of balloons. And so
listen, Disney's a rough place for her.
So like my toddler Teddy ran over wanted a balloon. And so my mom's like chasing after the toddler. This is her story on how. And she said the balloons like got caught by the wind and were like all in her face. She was like, this guy was probably looking at me like I was crazy. Like so freaked out by the balloons that she just handed over a card, didn't ask how much they were. It's $17 for a balloon. So my toddler had a balloon. The rest of the trip, my mom just kept justifying to herself, see how much enjoyment he's getting out of this balloon? Because $17 for a balloon is very expensive.
It's very expensive. My gosh.
Yeah, that was funny. And my Teddy apparently was like I was surprised. She was like, she thought he would go for the one that was like a Mickey head within the clear balloon. And he like, apparently they offered him like multiple balloons and he kept saying no. And then this is the one I wanted. So he got the one that was Mickey on one side and like Minnie Mouse on the other. And then she was she was selling us on it. She was like, well, if it deflates, we get a replace. She just kept being like, and which is funny. So it was good. And my toddler did really enjoy the balloon.
Listen, at 2, that's really all you need, I guess. And then did you have a minifig appointment as well?
Yeah, we did not get over there because it was at 3:00. I don't know what I was thinking of getting.
Oh, it was before you got there. Okay.
Yeah. So then we went over to Gideon's. There was no virtual queue. We just got in line. And my parents walked around with Teddy while we stood in line with Owen, my baby, in the stroller. And when we got to the front of the line, my parents popped in with us and they were like, are you sure that we can't? Because my mom was like, I don't want to make anyone upset. And I was like, well, you guys aren't buying things. I just want you to see. My dad did end up buying a cake slice. He thought that there was much better value, and he spent $11 for his slice of cake, and then he saw what my total was because I got one of each cookie. He was like, I think I got much better value for one slice of cake. He got the key lime, and I did taste it. It was very good, and I'm not a cake or icing person, and it was very good. We got one of each cookie. My parents did not like. I don't think my dad even tried them. My mom tried one and was not a fan. But more cookies for my husband and I. So
yeah, exactly. My goodness.
Yeah, we kind of ate them still had some, brought them home, and we're eating them on our flight home. But yeah, and then also this day, I tested out the AirTag thing. So while my parents were walking around with Teddy and we were in line, I was looking on the Find My Friends app to see like how that worked. And it was not very accurate for telling us like where he was, which fortunately I knew he was with my parents. So I wasn't like worried about him being lost. So that was like a good insight of, okay, that's not very good. We finished it, Gideon's, and then my parents found Disney Springs to be very commercial. So they live in a very small town in Colorado and like a mountain ski town. And they're like annoyed that there's now a Lululemon in their town, and they're annoyed that there's a Columbia on the main street of their town. So Disney Springs is super commercialized for them. So they were like, we can go now, which is fine. We went back to the resort. We got back to Bay Lake around 6:30, headed down to the pool. There was a pretty big slide. And so my toddler went down the little one first. We had to take his water shoes off because the water shoes like stopped him from being able to slide all the way down. And once we took the water shoes off, then he like was heavy enough to kind of slide down the little one. And then my husband and my dad wanted to take him down the big slide. And so they went to the top. We almost injured my toddler because they did not realize there was a stoplight system. And so they sent the toddler down. And then my dad's plan was like, well, I'll just go down after, and then I'll be able to sweep him up if he gets stuck. And so he like did not wait for the green light, which also my dad's colorblind. He's red-green colorblind. So they're
very inconvenient with the stoplight system.
Yeah. So once he knows that it's there, he can know between like top and bottom. If he knows there's differences in colors, he can look for a bit better. Light system at the parking garage at Disney Springs at all effective for him. He really doesn't understand why it can't, because red-green color blindness is the most common type of color blindness. He's like, why can't it be like red and blue? Because that would be very obvious to me, but red and green, he cannot see the differences.
Yeah, I can see that being hard. So he got in trouble for going too soon after your son?
Yeah, literally, we grabbed my toddler because we were waiting at the bottom, and then my dad just came barreling down because he came down way faster. And then I went up the next time around, and I was like, guys, there's a stoplight system. And they were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I was like, yes. Because then my Teddy loved it, so he kept going. All of us took him down at least a couple times.
You know, what's making me laugh about your parents finding Disney Springs commercialized is, you know what else is really commercialized? Disney World.
Yeah, it's kind of an ongoing theme.
That's kind of what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's very commercial, but
It
I
just
enjoy-
sounds like they're just not big shoppers, but I bet that Lululemon and Columbia do very well in their small town.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, my parents are not big shoppers at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then when we kind of all wrapped up at the pool, we wanted to get ice cream, so we went over to the Cove Bar, which was at the Bay Lake Tower, and they only had the Mickey sandwiches, the Mickey bars. I think they had, and then like a lemon and then something else. My Teddy does not like chocolate at all. If ice cream is contaminated by chocolate, he just won't eat it.
Contaminated.
And so we were like, let's just go up, we'll get changed, and then we'll walk over to the Contemporary, check that out, and we'll get ice cream over there. And there may have been ice cream at the quick service at the Contemporary. We didn't see it other than the same options that were available at the Cove Bar. So we ended up at the Steakhouse 71 Lounge. Because I was like, well, I know there's ice cream down there. And my mom wanted a cocktail too. So it worked in the whole plan. So we got down to the lounge there. My dad and my husband, they were like, we can just go over there in our swimsuits. And my mom and I were like, oh, you're not going to go to the Contemporary lobby in our swimsuits. We're going to go change just real quick and then we'll go over.
Especially if you're headed to Steakhouse 71, which is like a restaurant.
Yeah. So we didn't know that's what the plan was going to be, but that's where we ended up. So we got the ice cream and they have it's kind of like a build your own sundae. So the ice cream, and we did test it out because my toddler like picked up the sprinkles, put it on the ice cream, and he spat out the ice cream once it had the sprinkles on it. So we knew this for the rest of the trip. He's like a straight vanilla kid.
No sprinkles, no chocolate.
Yeah, no, none of that. Yeah, so then I was like, we got to wrap up. I want to go see the fireworks from our room because we had a theme park view room. So I was like, we got to wrap up here. Got back to the room. I think we had 5 or 10 minutes. And I was like, I just want to get Teddy in his pajamas. So we like hosed him off real quick, got him in his pajamas. And then, all sat on the balcony for the fireworks, which was really nice. And Tink did fly that night. So, yeah.
And did you turn the music on?
Yeah. It took a little bit to find what channel. It was like 100 and something, if anyone's wondering. It's one of the higher numbers, not I was expecting it to be like the first couple. But
Channel 1.
It was like 105.
No, I'm saying wouldn't it be nice if it was Channel 1?
Yeah.
Fireworks.
That would have been a lot easier.
Yes, that would be really nice. And then you don't have to scroll because that takes a while.
Yeah.
Especially because you're probably doing it last minute. So
yeah, totally last minute.
Too many clicks.
Yeah. And it was funny because I've seen it before. My dad's never seen the projections. And so at one point he was like, what is happening on the castle? And I was like, oh, it's projections. And then it must have been the part with the Tangled, because he was like, why are there jellyfish on the castle? And I was like, no, they're lanterns from Tangled. And then there was a layer point with the Pirates of the Caribbean where I was like, oh, Teddy, like this is Pirates. And my dad's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, the music, it's Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, but it was really fun. And put the boys down, and all of us went to bed pretty shortly after that because we had an early morning the next morning.
Sounds like a pretty good start, good arrival day. Next day was Thursday, May 8th, and you were headed to Epcot.
Yeah, so we got up. I'll get to my notes here. I was up at 5:25 a.m. because the baby got up, not the alarm, which was kind of nice because our alarms were set for 6 a.m. And so I was up with the baby, and then like went over and poked my husband just before 6. And I was like, turn off your alarm so that Teddy keeps sleeping and we don't. And so we let the toddler keep sleeping. We got up. It took me quite a while to figure out the coffee maker. I pressed I was trying to make a pot of coffee, and I pressed the pot of coffee and then how many cups. And I didn't realize you need to also press the K button. And it took quite quite a few times. It was early in the morning. Just trying to figure it out. And I also could have just looked up a video, but that is true. It was early in the morning and I didn't have
No,
coffee.
but I think it's hilarious that you remembered it, first of all. But I think it's relatable too, because it's like whenever you're on vacation, you don't know how your rental car works. How does the coffee maker work? How does this work? And so yeah, there's video or the thermostat. So we do find ourselves on YouTube a lot.
Yeah, there was also, we started a load of laundry at one point. I thought I had started it and I went to go put it in the dryer and everything was still dry in the washer. And I was like, oh, I didn't start it. Press the start button. So yeah.
It's that final, you keep missing that final button thing.
Yeah, apparently. So we got to the parks. We left the room by 7:30. Took the monorail to Epcot. My parents were also a little surprised by security. I knew in my head that, because I knew that if we were going to do a monorail crawl, we had to go through security. But I guess I just like that morning wasn't like mentally prepared for it yet. And so we did get better and better with security by the end of the vacation.
I will say that's an easier place to test it out, at least, because once you got to Epcot, you didn't have to.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is I didn't know if we were going to have to go through security again, because I knew we changed monorails. And so I wasn't sure how that worked. And so I was like, I don't know if we're going to have to go through security again when we get to the Ticket and Transportation Center. I just wasn't sure how it was, because I've never taken that way to get to Epcot. But yeah, once we went through security at Contemporary, we never went through security again, which was really nice.
Yeah, that part's nice. It was a little sooner than you expected.
Yeah, but it went really well. It was really funny on the platform. I was wearing a shirt I got from Etsy that had a Mickey head that had flowers in it for Flower and Garden, and I had black shorts on and I had Hoka shoes on. And another mom came up onto the platform, stood next to me, was wearing the exact same shirt from Etsy with black shorts and Hoka shoes.
Please tell me you took a picture together.
We didn't. I was just like, we're twinning. And she kind of looked at me and was like, what? And when we got on the monorail, we got on a different like cart from her. And my dad was like, that was weird.
It's super weird, but it'd be a funny thing to post on Instagram and tag the shop, because
yeah, like
that's
what's
hilarious.
the likelihood of that happening? So our plan was to rope drop Guardians of the Galaxy. Spoiler alert, my dad didn't, both my parents did not enjoy the rope drop process of being herded. They just didn't get it. They were like, well, why do we have to wait here? And like, why do we have to go here? And like, why are there ropes? And I was like, well, those are people that don't have early entry. It was just like explaining that whole process. My dad was like, but this isn't saving us time, because now rather than waiting in the line, we're just waiting here.
Yeah, you know what? There are people that feel this way, and I totally understand. But it's about once they do open, how long you have to wait.
Yeah, exactly. Because my dad and my husband went on Guardians of the Galaxy, and they were off by just after 9:00. And my mom and I got rider swap. And so the ride closures started here. I looked to see if my mom and I could go do Frozen Ever After with the boys, and Frozen Ever After was down this morning, which I was telling them later makes the crowds go to other places. All the people that would have gone to that ride are now going to different things.
100%.
And so we noticed I thought we actually got everything done we needed to get done that day, but we didn't need to get done anything, but you know what I mean?
That you wanted to get done?
Yeah, that we wanted to get done. And so, yeah, that didn't really impact us that much, because my mom and I took the boys to Starbucks. I got the carrot cake waffle, which I didn't realize have nuts on it. They were excellent. I am not allergic to nuts, but I just don't prefer nuts. And I asked for it without, and they were able to make me like a fresh carrot cake waffle without nuts. And so we ate that. Teddy got a cake pop, and then we got drinks for the boys, left them in the stroller. And so then once we finished up the waffle, we walked and decided to go to Figment. On the way, we walked past the character stop, and I thought about going there, but I didn't want my husband to miss the first character interaction. So we kept walking, and Figment was down when we got over there. I didn't even think to look, because I was like, it's just Figment.
Of all things.
but Figment was down. So we went and did the butterflies, which was fun. My toddler really enjoyed that. And then we went to the land pavilion. We were going to ride Living with the Land. And that's when my dad called to say they were off of Guardians. So we had them come and meet us over at Living with the Land. And then I realized that my toddler needed a diaper change. So we used the bathrooms in there, changed his diaper, and then rode Living with the Land. So.
And did your dad like Guardians?
Yes, they enjoyed Guardians because my husband also hadn't done it. So that was
okay. They both enjoyed it.
Yeah, they both enjoyed it. I can't remember what song they said they got. My mom and I got the Congo one, whatever. And we really enjoyed that. So yeah, did Living with the Land. And then when we came out of Living with the Land, we changed Teddy into swimwear for Moana because I just knew he was going to get soaking wet. And the outfit he was in that day was like thicker. And I knew it wouldn't dry very quickly if he got it wet. So we changed him into swimwear, did Moana. He didn't like it as much as he had the previous year. So this is where it's like, you just never know what because the previous year, we, like every single water attraction, it was like tears to get him to move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And here you kind of just was walking through it and was like more fine with kind of moving on.
He's a more mature young man now.
Yeah.
So he can't be bothered with the silliness.
Yeah. So he still really enjoyed like the fountains coming out of the ground at the end, which he did get soaking when I was glad he had swimwear on.
And next time you go, he might be really into it again.
Yeah. Who knows? So then we had a Nemo Fast Pass. So we did that, which was right there. So that was great. We booked Figment because Frozen was still down. So I booked a Figment Fast Pass for later. And then we gave Owen a bottle while we were in the Seas Pavilion. This was also the start of my parents noticing like bad guest behavior, just like rudeness. They were standing and looking at a seahorse or something, and some kid was like, "Excuse me." And so they stepped back just out of like instinct because they thought the kid was like trying to get through. But the kid actually just stood in front of my parents. My parents were like, "You can't use 'excuse me' to excuse rudeness." So it was fine, but it was kind of like it was just one of those things they just kept noticing throughout the trip. But it was fine.
It's not really fun. It's frustrating.
It is. Yeah.
It seems to be a common thing now.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we did Turtle Talk with Crush, which was really cute. My toddler's starting to do the hand movements when they ask you to do stuff. So we thought that was funny. And then we went to Spaceship Earth for another fast pass. And then my mom and I went and did Guardians while the boys all went and got food for just Teddy because us adults wanted to eat at the France Pavilion. But I was really concerned that my toddler would fall asleep on the way back there in the stroller. And I knew he was going to be hungry and I didn't want him to wake up really hangry. So I was like, you guys, so they went to Connections Eatery, got him some chicken tenders and fries while we were on Guardians. And we got off really quickly because we had a fast pass. I was surprised my mom rode it. So my mom says she likes Disney roller coasters. She doesn't like roller coasters. But that's a really intense one. She did when I also told her that it was going to be spinning. Like I warned her. And as soon as it spun, she screamed. And I was like, I warned you. And then it was funny because we got off and you have to go upstairs. And she was like, "They make you go upstairs after?" I feel like I've got sea legs. But we got off and met the boys and they were just finishing up. And so we met them just outside of Connections Eatery and then walked back to, they also gave Owen another bottle. And then, yeah, I put in my notes that the heat of the day was really getting to us. It was pretty hot this day. So yeah, we walked back to, actually, no, we gave Owen a bottle while we were at the France Pavilion. We walked back to the France Pavilion. We kind of split up. So this is where Epcot not having a lot of mobile order options is not great because the line was so long for the France Pavilion. So my parents got in line for the food. I was trying to find a table because there's also not a lot of tables and air conditioning in there. And then my husband started walking around because Teddy still hadn't fallen asleep. He got to Morocco and Teddy fell asleep.
In the stroller?
Yeah, in the stroller. So it did not take long. And then once I had a table, I called him back. He came back and then we gave Owen a bottle while we were after eating lunch. And then my parents sat down. I was surprised how aggressive you have to be about getting a table because I don't want people to feel like they have to stand up or like rush. I don't want to rush people. But multiple tables were taken. Like, I realized, okay, I need to, when someone is starting to finish eating, kind of ask them if we can have the table because, yeah, multiple times, like someone swooped in really quick. Or even I saw people sitting down at the table while someone was finishing up eating without even like talking to them. So I was trying to be nice and I was like, please take your time. We don't even have our food yet. Like, just if we could have the table, But yeah, it had to be kind of pushy.
Gotta be aggressive.
Yeah.
There's not that many tables, so there's a lot of competition. Especially, you said it was hot, so people are really wanting to sit down inside.
Yeah. Yeah. And also we noticed it felt like there were 2 tables missing. There were enough chairs that most of the tables had extra chairs and it just felt like there were 2 tables that were just like MIA. Like there were spots for a table and there just wasn't one.
Too many spare chairs.
Yeah. Too many spare chairs, 2 big spots where like tables definitely should have been. So yeah. And then we walked around the World Showcase waiting for our Remy's Fast Pass. Let's see here. Yeah. And so I think we got to Japan and then it was time for our Remy's Fast Pass. And so we walked straight back, did Remy's. Remy's did make my mom a little motion sickness. I noticed it a little bit too, but it wasn't bad. I think just like the screens.
Mm-hmm.
And then after tapping into Remy's, Stand by Skipper booked Soarin'. And my parents were going to go ride that and we were going to bring the boys to the baby care center. But we ended up deciding to just not ride Soarin'. My parents took Teddy to Figment. And then we took Owen to the baby care center. So to give him another bottle because it was afternoon now.
Can you talk about the baby care center for people that are interested?
Yeah. I thought the baby care center in Epcot was really well located. It was pretty central because it was next to the kind of near the Mexico pavilion. And the Epcot one was really nice. They had a quiet room. So it was kind of odd because there was a room that looked like it shouldn't be a quiet room, but the people in there had turned the lights off and the TV was on. And so I asked if there was somewhere we could sit to feed Owen and she opened up the quiet room. There was someone else giving a bottle in there too. But it was nice because there was like rocking chairs in there. I saw another mom come in and was nursing in there. I saw as we were leaving, I asked my husband to step out. It was not that like men couldn't be in there, but someone else came in to pump and I just didn't want the nursing mom or the pumping mom to feel uncomfortable. So I was finishing up Owen's bottle and I asked my husband to step out. I'm sure they didn't ask for it, but I'm a labor and delivery nurse and a doula. And so I just wanted to, and when I talked to him after, and he was like, oh no, I knew exactly why you were doing that. So yeah, it was a nice space in there. The changing tables were also really big. Like I could have very easily changed a toddler or a much larger kid on the changing tables in there. The changing tables, I can talk about it when we get to that day, but like Animal Kingdom had much tinier changing tables that were more baby sized. Like I don't even think I could have changed my toddler on the changing tables at Animal Kingdom.
That's so strange.
Yeah, I'm like, you'd think that they'd just be the same size at all of them. We didn't go to the baby care center at Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom. I went to the Magic Kingdom one last year, and I think the changing tables there are big as well. But yeah, we really enjoyed they also had I was planning on cleaning bottles. I ended up just bringing enough bottles that we didn't have to worry about cleaning bottles, but I did look and they had a sink in there that you could use to like clean bottles. They actually had dish soap available. They had a water filter so that you could use for formula. I had pre-filled all of our bottles with water pre-measured for making formula, but they had a bottle warmer in there. My son takes cold formula. He's totally fine with it, and it's totally acceptable and safe. I didn't have to worry about warming bottles, but they had a bottle warmer. And then the water filter, you could either pick like cold, room temp, or warm. And so we kind of used it to fill up our water bottles quite frequently. It was really nice. So yeah, and then they had an area that had like tables and chairs with a TV. So the 2 days that we used the baby care center, we used them quite well. The Animal Kingdom day, we used it quite a lot. And then the Epcot day, we really enjoyed using it when we did too.
Okay, good
So-
to know. Where did you go after the Epcot baby care center?
Yeah, so after the baby care center, we stepped out and we were waiting for my parents kind of as like between right where it's next to the Mexico Pavilion. So this is where the app. So my dad was really trying to like use the app to get directions places. And they knew we were at the baby care center, but they didn't know where that was. And so they were trying to find it. And he was trying to use the directions function in the app, and it wasn't working. And so my mom asked someone for directions, and the cast member that my mom asked literally said, "Stop using the app. That function doesn't work," which frustrated my dad because he was trying to use it to get directions, and it wasn't.
Yeah, and I feel him on that, but it's correct. I mean, that's why we have a navigator tool on the website, not to navigate in the park, but to navigate between points at Disney World, because their directions are so bad. They'll be like literally turn left, turn right, and there's no, what are you saying? Turn left where? Turn right where?
Yeah.
That is very difficult.
Especially because that part with the bridges situation that's over there is not easy to navigate. Which bridge or which pathway do I take? So then while we were waiting for them, we saw the flower and garden stand for the Mexico Pavilion. And so I got 2 cocktails at that point, the elderflower cucumber margaritas for my husband and I. And they were very good. And I didn't realize they came in like little souvenir cups. So we have those souvenir cups. And that was the only food stand we went to this day. My parents are not big fans of, I don't know, stopping. And also, the thing that surprised me with how long it took is parking the stroller, because it took a long time because of the baby getting in and out. So we wanted the baby in the stroller because it was easier to keep him shaded for the long walks. But then the whole process of getting him in the stroller and getting him strapped in, we used the infant snug seat. So our stroller setup, we had inline up a baby vista, and the top toddler seat we had facing us with an infant snug seat. It is technically supposed to be 100% laid flat, and it was like 1 click away from that. So I was fine with it. But yeah, getting like the straps for my baby in there, and then getting his fan on, and we purchased a UPF baby blanket, which was ideal for covering his legs. We didn't have it like covering so that he still had airflow. We didn't put it over the sunshade, but it was really nice to just lay over his legs so that we didn't worry. And so we wanted him in the stroller for the long walks to keep him out of the sun. But then when we got on rides, getting him just in and out of the baby carrier and like getting the baby carrier on, that whole process, and then unclipping the diaper bag, putting it, that whole process just took a long time. And so Epcot, each pavilion only has 1 ride, and we were doing that process quite a bit. So that took a lot longer than we were expecting. And so that ate up a lot of time, because I reflected on the day and I was like, it feels like we could have done more, had more time for stopping at shops or stopping at food booths, but we just really didn't, because kind of the transitions just took a long time. So that was the only food booth we ate at, or didn't even eat. We just got drinks. And then my parents wanted to see the baby care center, because I told them they could refill their water bottles. So we went in there and also changed Teddy's diaper. And then while we were sitting down in there, this was actually really funny. My mom goes, "Yeah, we almost were in Disney jail." And
Pardon?
it's like, what? And I was expecting, it was like, what? Stu, I was expecting them to tell me that they like let Teddy stand up on the ride or something and the ride stopped. I was like, what did you guys do? And they were like, no, Teddy picked up a butterfly in the butterfly house by its wings, and we don't think it was alive anymore. So we're worried. We were worried that we were going to go to Disney jail. It kind of was a joke. But when she first said that, I really thought that they did something on the ride to be good. But yeah, my toddler killed a butterfly. Oh, yeah.
No jail. No jail, though.
No jail. So yeah, then we kind of talked and decided. We did, at some point, Standby Skipper did get us a fast pass for Frozen. So we talked between either doing the 3 Caballeros and then doing Frozen. And we decided to go to furthest point, do Frozen. And then we did 3 Caballeros on the way back. And then that was the end of the day for us.
How did your kids do on Frozen Ever After?
They really liked it. Yeah. My parents made comment because they were like, that was a really cheap ride layover or ride refurb for Disney. And because they were like, this ride never used to have a line ever.
It didn't.
I was like, no, it doesn't now.
It totally does.
Yeah. But we had a really good time. And I really enjoyed that ride. We didn't get to do it last year. Then for dinner, we decided to go to the Polynesian for dinner, and Ohana actually had a shorter walk-up wait than, what's the other one that's there?
Kona.
We decided to do Ohana, which we had a really good experience at. The food was really good. So the only thing that was, we noticed this, and I don't think it's the server's fault. We had excellent service to start, and then it was by the end of the meal, it was like our server was just too busy with other tables. And we had the same experience the next day. And I feel bad for the servers because they genuinely gave us such great service when they had the time. I just think they get sat too many tables because he was clearly like, it's not like he was just MIA. Like he was clearly attending to other tables and just too busy because he came over and asked if we were done or if we were still eating. And we were like, oh, still eating. And then it was only like 5 minutes later that we were done. But we waited a very long time before they brought dessert, and then waited a very long time for our check to come. And then we left with the boys to take the boys back because then my dad noticed that they charged us for the kids. And that was when we realized that actually we paid for a different tables.
Oh.
Bill. Like our server accidentally mixed up the bill. And so we actually had paid for a different table. So I think they had to refund that. And so that took quite a bit. And at that point, we were all very done. And yeah, we took the boys back. And then we were stopped at, it must have been the Grand Floridian or maybe the Ticket and Transportation Center. And I got a call from my mom and she's going, how's your trip going? And I was like, fine, we're paused where we're at. And she's like, we're getting told that there's issues with the train up ahead. And I was like, I don't know. I just got an announcement that we're going to go again. So we had some sort of delay on the monorail, but it was fine. We got back to our room and it wasn't like, we didn't get evacuated to buses or anything like that. No.
It just temporarily paused.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that kind of the end of that day?
Yeah, because I don't actually think we made it back for fireworks. I think we got back a little after, I think we were on the monorail for the fireworks, maybe something like that. But yeah, got to sleep and then got ready for our Magic Kingdom day.
That was a long day, though.
Yes.
You would originally had thought maybe a midday break. And did you skip it because your toddler was able to fall asleep?
Yeah, and also it just seemed like it was gonna, because we wanted to eat at, it was just where what we had planned to do in the morning kind of spilled over. So now he's really tired. I think he's going to just fall asleep in the stroller. So we might as well just stay in the park because we were at the back of the park for lunch and then leaving. I could see that he was getting tired. So it was like, we could just have a nap in the stroller.
Okay. So the next day was Friday, May 9th, and it was Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. And this was our favorite day. So we left the room a little later than the previous morning. Early entry started at 8:30 and we walked to the park. So this was my dad, because we had a view of the monorail. And so my dad kept seeing that there was a monorail that leaves Contemporary and goes straight to Magic Kingdom. And he was like, well, let's take the monorail. And I was like, no, we were on the monorail yesterday and it goes us to Ticket. Like, I was like, we're going to have to go to all the stops before going to Magic Kingdom. And he was insistent that he saw one. And I didn't have the knowledge of knowing, well, that's because there's an express train. But we found that out when we got over to the lobby of the Contemporary. And then we decided to walk. So that delayed us a little bit. So if you're staying at the Contemporary and you see one that's going straight to Magic Kingdom, there is an express monorail that goes from Ticket and Transportation through the Contemporary to Magic Kingdom. It does not stop at the Contemporary.
That is correct. Only Grand Floridian is one stop away. But you're right. If you had boarded it, you would have backed all the way around.
Yeah. Yeah. So we walked. It's a very short walk. It's funny. One person told us it was a 14-minute walk. Someone else told us it was a 6-minute walk. It was like minutes. It was not a very long walk. And then we had our own, I knew we had our own security. The walkway has its own security. There was no one there when we got there. Got in line for the tap styles. This was funny. I didn't see the whole thing happen, but I guess the kid in front of my mom literally picked his nose and then put his finger on.
Ew.
Yeah. And so then the person like made her use, my mom was like trying to use a different one, but the person was like, no, just use that one, because I guess she must have been the only person. But my mom was funny because she was like, you guys need to wipe that. I think she was expecting the cast member to run off and get a wipe, and they were just like, yep, we wipe it. And I was like, okay, we can move on now. But yeah, I was like, if I'd seen that too, I would have been grossed out. Fortunately, I had hand sanitizer in my bag, so here's hand sanitizer.
I mean, honestly, all day you're touching stuff that everybody else has touched, so I guess that's to be expected. But seeing it, ugh.
Yeah. I had hand sanitizer spray in my bag, so I was just like, here's some hand sanitizer. So we walked into the feedback I got from my parents the day before with the rope drop was they were like, we kind of just want to, if we're going to get there for rope drop, we want to use the pre-time to like maybe get coffee or something like that. So we went to Main Street Bakery, got coffees, and then headed over to, so I didn't experience really like what the whole rope drop process was because it's changed at Magic Kingdom. The wait was, I think, 45 or 55 minutes for Seven Dwarfs, and my parents really wanted to ride that. So they got in line for Mine Train. We did rider swap, so my husband and I had rider swap pass for later that day. And then we were going to go do Winnie the Pooh, but literally while we parked the stroller, because we had the boys in the stroller when we did rider swap, and then we parked to the stroller and Winnie the Pooh had gone up to 30 minutes. And I was just not, I saw that there were a lot of other rides with shorter waits, and so I didn't feel like we needed to wait 30 minutes for Winnie the Pooh. And so we went and did Mad Teacups, we did Dumbo, we did Little Mermaid, and we did Barnstormer twice because and our baby couldn't go on Barnstormer, so he went first with my husband, or no, I went first with him. And I did have to, Teddy's head was at the perfect height to hit the lap bar. So I did hold him back so that he didn't hit his head. But he really, and I also totally thought he was going to cry. We got up to the top. He looked like he was not enjoying it. And then when we got to the end, he was like, more. So I was like, okay. So then he went on again with my husband while he was on. And it was a walk-on. So like he went, and then my parents finished at Mine Train. They came over. My parents rode with him. So we did Barnstormer 3 times. Not the adults didn't do it 3 times, but Teddy got to do it 3 times.
He's living his best life. That is his level of coaster.
Yeah. He thought it was great. Yeah. And then we all went to Dumbo together. And then we had a Peter Pan Fast Pass before 9:30 to 10:30. I think we got over there around 10:15. So I felt like we got a lot done that morning. And I think what made Magic Kingdom so good for us is just the proximity of the rides to each other. We could park the stroller and ride so much without feeling like we were in the sun too much or getting too far away from the stroller. So that was...
And Fantasyland in particular has so much that your toddler can do, and baby. So that's really nice.
He also really liked Little Mermaid. He was giggling the whole time on that. So we went and did Peter Pan Fast Pass. I still can't believe people wait a really long time for that ride. I think it was like almost an hour wait by the time we got on Peter Pan.
You know, it reminds me, this is so random, but you know when about 5 years ago, there was toilet paper shortages, and it's everyone stocking up. It's like you're stocking up because there's shortages, but there's shortages because you're stocking it. And it feels like that with Peter Pan's Flight and Navi River Journey. Like, why are people staying in line? Well, I don't know, but because they are, I'm gonna get
Yeah.
a lighting lane.
Yeah.
And it just feels like this thing that feeds itself for no reason.
Yeah, like, I was glad to do it with a lightning lane, but
Exactly.
I would not have waited an hour for that. And
Or rope drop it. But either way, you don't want to wait in a long line for what?
yeah, and it was because it was fun. My parents are British, so we were like, "Teddy, we're gonna go to London," and so it was cute, like, to
Yeah.
say that, but it's also extremely short. It's not even, like, a long ride, it's very short.
It's so random. Can you imagine taking somebody that's never been to the parks and be like, "Can you name what attractions are most popular here?"
Yeah,
They would never be able to guess, I don't think.
no, it's just crazy to me. I'm glad it's a small world. I feel like that will have figured out was we did that next, and that's a long ride too. I actually gave Owen a bottle while we were on It's a Small World, which was perfect. My parents are in the camp that you can't go to Disney World without riding It's a Small World, so it was very cute, so we got on it, and I knew it was a long ride and a slow ride, and actually it was literally perfect as we pulled up to start unloading was when Owen finished his bottle, so
You did almost all of Fantasyland.
yeah, yeah, pretty much, and then we had a Pirates of the Caribbean Fast Pass, and we were kind of pushing it, but with the Teddy really wanted to go on the carousel, so my parents did the carousel with Teddy, and they FaceTimed my sister while they were on that. That was nice. And then we kind of we got to Pirates of the Caribbean by walking around the castle, and I think going through, is it like the Liberty, like America Square? So we got to actually, no, we went through Adventureland. Yeah, we definitely went through Adventureland to get there. Did Pirates of the Caribbean, and then we were ready for lunch. So Tortuga Tavern was closed, but I couldn't remember the name of it, but I knew that there was somewhere that serves like Mexican food over there. So I looked on the map. We ended up eating at Pecos Bill. And I knew that like when I saw, I was like, wait, Tortuga Tavern is connected to that. And my parents went to go get a seat there while we parked the stroller, and they picked a seat outside. And I was like, no, guys, there's an air conditioning right inside. We went inside. The entire air-conditioned part for Tortuga Tavern was empty. There were maybe, like, 1 or 2 other people sitting in there, and
Is
they
that
were
the
like
room that had the, like, fireplace in the bathrooms?
yeah, I think so.
Because I feel like that's a real hidden gem.
Yeah, and it started filling in, like, we felt we were done and headed back to the room for a break at 12:40, but we, like, hit before the lunch, and we sat down and mobile ordered. The parks were I wouldn't say that they were, like, crazy busy because the mobile orders, we were able to mobile order for now. We didn't have to put it in ahead of time. So we all sat at the table and mobile ordered and then walked over and picked up our food. So I really enjoyed our food at Pecos Bill. We all kind of got something different, and the food was really good. And then we walked back to the room. I wanted to get Dole Whip, but we got a Jungle Cruise Fast Pass for later that day. So we decided we'll come back and get Dole Whip when we do Jungle Cruise. Spoiler alert, I never ended up getting Dole Whip at Magic Kingdom. But so yeah, we went back to the room. Because my husband also really likes the coconut, but we tried to put Teddy on for a nap. He refused to nap. Like, just was not having it. And it got to around 2, it must have been like 2:00. And I was just like, let's call it, because he's just screaming his head off. He was not napping. So we left the room at 2:15 for the parade. He fell asleep almost instantly in the stroller on the walk back to Magic Kingdom. So we wanted to watch the parade. So we stood in the shade by the train station at the top of Main Street, and we just let Teddy sleep. And then at this point, my dad told me he wanted to get something for his coworkers' kids. And the characters they were looking for, one of the kids liked Rhea and Hercules. And then the other liked Moana. And I was like, what? We were at the Polynesian yesterday and Epcot yesterday. My dad did go into the gift shop at the Polynesian. I didn't realize this. He told me on the Magic Kingdom day. and they called to find out if they had the Moana ears, and the Moana ears were completely sold out. And then I asked the cast members, I was like, have you guys seen any Hercules or Rhea merch? And they were like, no, not at all. So yeah, it was kind of the quest. I was like, oh, I wish I'd known. Because then he was like, oh, I might just get them Frozen stuff. And I was like, that also could have been, Frozen stuff probably would have been more at Epcot as well. So yeah, if there's specific merch you want, ask the person that knows Disney ahead of time where to get that.
It is tricky. I've been in a situation where people tell you their favorite characters and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to find this. I don't know if they still have them, if there are these ears you could get where you could pick the characters that make the ears. It's kind of like a build your own. And then I did have a little bit of success finding ears where you could pick the characters. But it is really hard to find stuff, as your dad found out.
Yeah, like Rhea was not happening. He didn't even know what Rhea was either. So when he told me Rhea, I was like, I'm gonna go with you. So him and I went to the Emporium because I was like, that's the biggest store in Magic Kingdom. And we walked all through. We even looked through the pin board, which the pin section at the Emporium wouldn't have been the biggest, but even the person that was standing by the pins was like, I don't know if I've seen a Hercules or Rhea pin.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it was like a little too far after Moana coming out. And I think with the Moana being such a popular movie franchise that I think that merch went just really quickly because there was not a lot of Moana in the parks at all.
Tough.
Yeah. We ended up getting something like last minute on the last day that was just like random kind of princess stuff, not character specific. But yeah, and then my mom went and got us all refreshers from Starbucks, and then my husband stayed with our spot. And I told him, I was like, if it starts really filling in and you feel like you can't like keep our spot, call me because we'll come back. And there was one point he called and we were finishing up at the Emporium anyway, but he called and he was like, hey, you guys need to come back because it's filling in. Because my husband's not assertive at all. Like if someone just stood in front of him, he would totally not say anything.
And you're talking about the spot for the parade that you were waiting on, right? At the front of the park. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went back, woke up Teddy, watched the parade, which was really fun. And then, of course, like after the parade is like chaos. I also noticed that every day around 3:00 was when we started seeing kids leaving the parks, like having meltdowns. And it was like this day, because we were at the front of the park, like every kid that was leaving the park was having a meltdown. And I don't think my parents made comment that Teddy spit up the baby. I mean, it was the baby, but Teddy was exceptionally well behaved. But we also didn't put him in any situations that we didn't get in line if it was a long line. The closest we got to meltdowns was when when he was starting to get hungry, but I had snacks in the cooler. So most of the time I was able to just hand him a snack. And then, yeah, I knew if he was a kid that wouldn't nap in a stroller, I wouldn't have tried to skip nap, but I at least knew that he would nap in a stroller. And when he needed to take a nap in a stroller, I knew that the stroller had to be moving. And we laid him back a little bit and just walked until he fell asleep. But yeah, I noticed it was like 3 p.m. You would just see all these people leaving with screaming kids.
During the parties, like Halloween party, Christmas party, I always look at 9:00 or so because it's like that's when the parents are going to leave, or at least like after the first parade. And that's a bummer because those parties are so expensive. There's a certain pattern to it, but I feel like you were probably prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I saw that the line for the Mickey meet, because we were standing right there, was super short. And so I grabbed Teddy and ran. I was like, meet me over there. My mom got lost, which was funny because she said that I thought she was right behind me. And she said she like got taken by the crowds. And I think she ended up underneath the train station. And then a cast member, like, you look really lost. Where are you heading? And she told the cast member, I've lost my daughter. And then the cast member looked super concerned. And then my mom was like, and asked her what she looks like. And my mom was like, 30 years old. Paul.
That'll narrow it down.
Yeah. And then, but then the cast member was like, oh, you haven't lost a kid.
She thought I was a little kid. That to grow up.
Then the cast member pointed my mom towards the Mickey meet. This was the first character meet we did. And my parents were like, why is it taking so long? And I was like, because the characters spend so much time with each kid. And they really didn't get it until it was our turn. And then they were like, oh, like Mickey got Teddy a sticker, which was funny because I was like videoing it. And everyone was just, Teddy wanted the sticker on his shirt. And so my husband was just watching Mickey fumble to try it. And I was like, why didn't you help Mickey? And then Mickey was like, what? So they put the sticker on Teddy's shirt, and Teddy really liked interacting with the set for every character we met. Like, he wouldn't necessarily interact directly with the character, but he would like point to all of the sets, and like then, which was cute interaction. This was probably the best character interaction we had for Teddy. Teddy was just like starstruck. He was like, this is my superhero. So it was very cute. And yeah, it was a really good interaction.
That's really cute. And you all were there for that?
Yeah, all of us were there for that.
That's nice. I hope you got some good pictures.
Yeah, it's those photo box though.
I
Like,
know.
I'm looking at the picture and they cut off the feet, like some of them, and I'm just like, this is not as good as the photo pass, because we did Memory Maker, and yeah, the photo pass photographers are so much better, because then we had character meets at Hollywood Studios that was an actual photographer because it was outside. And they were so much better photos of like hugs and all the things. And like my toddler is like walking all over the place. So my toddler is not necessarily interacting with the characters right in front of the photo box.
And the toddlers don't know what to look at.
Yeah.
Most kids are familiar with cameras.
Yeah.
But if they don't know where the camera is, they don't know where to look.
Yeah. So I wasn't a fan of the photo boxes.
But you did the experience. I just
did the experience. And then
too bad they don't have the photographers there.
Yeah. And then we got out of that. There was like that kind of Mickey store there. And my dad had mentioned when we were in the Emporium, oh, do you think Teddy would like a plush? And I was like, well, let him pick one out. So then when we were in that store, I kind of coached Teddy to pick out a plush. And then I was like, you have to take it to Nana and Papa and say please. And he did. He followed instructions. He took the plush to one of my parents. They weren't together, and was like, please. And so they got him a plush. So that was cute. And then they were FaceTiming my sister at that point, because my sister's really big into Eeyore, and we were on a hunt. I say we were on a hunt, but we never ended up even looking in either of the Winnie the Pooh stores, because I totally forgot about it at Epcot. And then after this, the Winnie the Pooh ride was down the rest of the day. So we never went into the Winnie the Pooh. But basically, we went for Christmas time. This was before 2013, for just a day on our way to Key West. And we got this blanket. So this is when both me and my sister were living at home. And it has the castle on it. And the castle has the dream lights on it. And so this blanket, like, I took it to college with me. And then at some point, I'm someone that likes to declutter a lot. And so then I went back to my sister, and then I stole it back from my sister. And so this blanket has been like stolen back and forth between my sister and I. So I was planning on trying to get some sort of blanket for my sister. We never did, because we just really didn't shop very much. But my parents saw Eeyore ears. My sister has a huge collection of Eeyores. And so they FaceTimed my sister and were like, do you want these Eeyore ears? They were children's size. And also, my sister is not like a Disney parks person. So my sister was like, yes, I like Eeyore, but when am I going to wear this?
It's a great question.
Yeah, so that was a veto. Because even my mom, I thought about getting another set of ears. I have 2 ears, and I thought about getting another set of ears and decided against it. And I was like, do you really wear them at home? And I was like, no, I don't wear them at home. They go in a box, and they're there for when I do Disney stuff. I wore them when we did the Disney exhibit that came to Chicago. But yeah, no, I was like, no, I only buy them for future vacations and this vacation. But yeah, then we left there, and then the plan. So that was when we had a fast pass for Winnie the Pooh. Walked over to Winnie the Pooh, and the weather was starting to not get great. Wait, I'm getting confused. No, we walked over to Buzz Lightyear. Sorry, I'm missing a whole section. I keep forgetting about this. We walked from the Mickey meet to Tomorrowland for a Buzz Lightyear fast pass, which actually I accidentally canceled. And had guest experiences bring back. When we were at Pecos Bill, I was trying to see if I could get an earlier one, and I didn't realize I was still in the modify section and accidentally booked another one. And then it went away, and like we were all disappointed that we didn't have realized my husband moves. So yeah, so we walked over, did guest services, got it back for me. I like explained and they got it back. So we walked over, did our 3:00 Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin, fast pass. And then from there, Owen needed a bottle. My dad took Teddy to the Tomorrowland Speedway. And then my mom, Tyler, and I took Owen into Cosmic Phrase, gave him a bottle in the air conditioning. And he just took the bottle a lot better when we were in air conditioning, which I don't blame him. I don't
blame him
heat
either. You lose your appetite when you're too hot.
Yeah. And so then my dad came back with Teddy, met us, and then Owen was still finishing a bottle. So my mom and dad took Teddy on teacups. And then when they got back, Owen was done. And so then we walked to Storybook Circus and met Donald and Goofy. That was a 15-minute wait. It was a 30-minute wait, though, for Minnie and Daisy. It was like double. And it was you could see the line from that. And it was a lot longer for Minnie and Daisy. I'm wondering if it's because it's like Mickey and Minnie is just more popular than Goofy and Donald. I don't know. But yeah, we saw Donald and Goofy. And then we had all four of us had a fast pass for Barnstormer because we had ridden it that morning without. And so I thought the fast pass was going to be as fast as it was in the morning. It was not. So I was like, well, let's just get Teddy as many rides as possible and we'll each take a turn using our fast and getting Teddy a ride. It took a really long time compared to the morning to get Tyler on with Teddy. So only Tyler ended up riding it because then we had to get to our dinner reservation at Tony's Town Square.
Before we move on to that, I want to call out something you just said, which is you thought you would each take a turn going on Barnstormer with him because he didn't have a park ticket. So he also didn't have lightning. So you all were going to use your lightning lanes one at a time to get him multiple rides. And I think that's really clever. If it had worked out, it would have been even better.
Yeah, and then my dad noticed that. He was like, the lightning lane queue meets with the regular queue pretty early on that ride. And so it was not quick to get on. And so then we devised a plan. Our plans kept getting interrupted. We would literally make a plan and then things would change. So while Tyler was on that, we realized that it was taking a really long time and we weren't going to have time to do our plan to ride more than once. And so my parents were going to take the stroller and Owen and walk to Tony's Town Square. And then I was going to wait for Tyler and Teddy to get off of Barnstormer. And we were going to take the train over so that Teddy got to ride the train. And so they were like, well, we don't need to wait for Tyler and Teddy to get off. So we'll just start heading over there now because I didn't want to have to collapse the stroller to get on the train. So then they get off. We literally walk up to the train and the person in front of us got on and then they pulled across a rope and closed it because of lightning in the area, which was frustrating because there was literally someone in front of us that they were letting get on. So I called my parents. They had made it over to Teacups. And I was like, just pause there. We'll catch up with you. And then we walked over to Tony's Town Square. And then
we had a 5:55 reservation, I think.
Yep. And so the storm was coming in. So I think somehow my dad had gotten there. I think he walked fast ahead to check us in for our reservation. And I had said, if you could ask about the stroller coming in, because I know that they don't let strollers in the restaurants, but it's really hard with a baby because you can't put them in a high chair. And there's really nowhere to put a 4-month-old down. It's hard to eat with a 4-month-old like on your chest, or somebody has to be holding. And so I was like, if there's any way that we could bring the stroller in, can you just ask? And then by the time my mom and me and Tyler walked up, my mom was like, there's no way. It's so tight. There's stairs. So we were starting to park the stroller and get it all covered But I guess my dad had gotten us a loud stroller, but by the time we met up with them, the stroller was already parked in Owen. We got a partial booth, and actually it was really nice because I was able to lay the blanket down and lay Owen down on the booth. Like, we put him kind of in the corner, so my legs were kind of stopping and rolling off. But yeah, so we ate there. The appetizers were great. So my husband and I had eaten there on our honeymoon, and we only had appetizers and drinks, and so we thought it was great. We got the fried mozzarella and the breadsticks. They were both great. And then our dinners came. My mom actually sent hers back because she got some sort of beef. It was like peppered braised beef, and she took two bites, and she said the meat was slimy for the first 2 bites, which is not the texture you're looking for in beef.
That's a bad adjective for food.
Yeah, not what you're looking for in beef. No. So she actually sent hers back, and then she just was like, I got enough appetizers. She just was like, fine. And she actually sent hers back because I was folding Owen, and so I hadn't even tried mine. I got the whatever the vodka sauce pasta dish was, and mine, it was not good either. My toddler he ate so much. He got the spaghetti and meatball kids meal, and I had them switch out the spaghetti for like penne so that he could eat it easier. He like almost ate the whole bowl. So he had a good meal.
So not great entrees.
No, so what was funny is I said that my dish had a ton of pepper in it, and my mom goes, well, I was supposed to have peppered beef and there was no pepper. And my husband, he said his was fine. I can't remember what he got, but he said his had a ton of pepper in it as well. So yeah, not great entrees. And then dessert came, and we had a whole conversation with the server about how my son does not like chocolate, and she brought out ice cream for him, and it was covered in sprinkles and chocolate sauce. And
that is a no for him.
No, and we had literally had an entire conversation with the server at the beginning saying he didn't like chocolate, because she was like, how would he not like chocolate? And we were like, we don't know. And had a conversation telling her. And this was, again, server was great. He was great with handling like my mom's dish being not good until after, like, when we were done eating. She just was too busy with other tables, which is so unfortunate, because especially the servers, I feel like your last impression of them before you give your tip is like the service at the end. And I just think it's really unfortunate for the servers, because they have too many other tables. So
They do. I think that's super common too. Yeah, I do try when I'm frustrated. I try to see, okay, they're very busy. It's not their fault, but it is hard.
yeah, and it's like I wasn't frustrated with the servers because I could see that they were rushed off their feet. It's frustrating because the restaurant has sat too many, and it's a bummer because for the server, I just feel like that stinks for them, and they must know that too, that their tips must be impacted. But
Yeah, and it feels, I know that some stuff was slow to come back after things were closed down. And I think it was staffing in large part. And it does feel like they should limit the capacity
yeah,
based on everything that you've been talking about.
yeah, that was a comment that my parents made frequently, is they just felt like capacity was so high, and they thought it was really impacting guest experience, especially because when my parents took us as a kid, that was back when you would get in the morning, and then the park would fill, and then you would get a stamp on your way out, and the park would be kind of a lot emptier by the afternoon.
Back in the olden days.
And my parents talked about how their experience used to be a lot, and it was very different. So yeah, they noticed a big difference, especially with the crowd levels, which I can't remember what day it was, but the buses, I was surprised how long we waited for buses, especially staying at a deluxe, because last year we stayed at a value, and we noticed that the deluxes were going a lot more frequently than the value that we were staying at. And even we shared a bus with Wilderness Lodge for this trip, and then we waited a long time. And my mom's a general manager at a resort in the ski town she works for, and she was like, I don't blame them. They're looking at their capacity and they're running less buses because their occupancy is probably down right now. Because all the buses, by the time we got the bus, was like full. So we waited a long time, but then the buses were full.
I don't think deluxe guests should have to share buses. That's my thing. If you're going to pay for it, that should be a perk of it, is that you don't have to share. Because like you said, values often don't share.
No, it was frustrating because it like to have to go to Wilderness is not super close. Yeah, it's across a lake from the Contemporary. And we waited longer, like definitely. When we waited for a bus back from Disney Springs, the people behind us go to Disney frequently, and they said that because this was on our date night, sorry, I'm skipping ahead, that they go to Disney frequently, and they made comment that this was the longest they waited for a bus in like years.
Yeah. And most deluxes share, or they have multiple stops. That's, yeah. I wish it wasn't like that.
Yeah. So back to dinner. So we had a Jungle Cruise pass for just after dinner, and the weather was not good. It was fine. We sent my mom to the front of my mom's a talker. She like starts talking to everyone. And so we sent her. We were like, just go look out the window and see what the weather is. She's got ages. We were like, how long does it take to look out a window?
She got caught up in a conversation.
Like she probably was making a friend. So she was talking to, I can't remember what they were talking about, but she came back. And yeah, so Jungle Cruise was down because of weather. And so we got an anytime experience. And then I couldn't hear, at some point we got Winnie the Pooh Fast Pass. And so we decided to use our anytime experience for Haunted Mansion and ride Winnie the Pooh. And so we got to Winnie the Pooh on our way to Haunted Mansion, and Winnie the Pooh was down. It was so funny. My mom kept asking, every single time a ride was down, she would ask the cast members, how long until the ride's back up? And I'm like, they're not going to know. Which, I mean, as you would think that, I guess as somebody that's never been to the parks or doesn't go frequently, you probably would think, oh, they might have an idea, but they don't. And I think they're told not to give.
No, they don't know. Because they call and say, hey, we're having issues with this ride, and they shut it down, and they just wait for the maintenance team to do that thing. They don't know how long the maintenance team's going to take.
Yeah, so Winnie the Pooh was down, so that was frustrating. Went back, did Haunted Mansion, rode with the anytime experience that we got from Jungle Cruise. And that line was long when we did that. And then we went to Tron. So I accidentally bought my mom a Tron Lightning Lane. We had Lightning Lanes, I think it was like $7.35. And she always knew that she wasn't going to ride it. And so we were trying, since she was just going to take the boys straight to the baby care center. And then me trying to finagle working more, I was like, well, why don't you take the boys with us? And then we could get a rider swap and then one of us could use your Lightning Lane. And they would only give us like one rider swap pass because we had Lightning Lanes, which I didn't quite understand. So anyway, she stayed with the boys, and then two of us were going to ride again, one with the rider swap, one with my mom's band, because I felt bad because I always knew I shouldn't have bought her. That was a mistake I made. So we get to the front, and it was my dad, me, and my husband. And I had issues with the light cycle. My calves did not fit. And so this is a weird thing to know. I've always had really large calves. My mom and I ride horses and ride English. And one of like, you either wear half chaps, which is leather, or like tall boots. And being leather, like the boots have to be fitted. And my mom and I have always had a lot of issues. And so when we couldn't get that, I was like, oh, my husband was already in the light cycle and my dad was already in the light cycle. And it was frustrating because the back part was nowhere near me. And I was seeing other people riding that looked larger than me, but it was just an issue with like my calf, like the calf restraint just was not working. And I just thought I'd go on. I was like, let them ride. I'll just go on. I just assumed that they would put me on the next one, but they didn't. They took me, and then it was a very long line for the lap bar. And I just was like, it was getting late at that point. I knew my mom was waiting with the boys, and I was like, I'll just get off. And so they took me out a door to get back to the lockers. I had used my magic band. I was planning on just meeting back with my mom with the boys, but then I'd used my magic band to get the locker, and I didn't want my dad and my husband, when they got to the lockers, to be like worried about their stuff because we put all of our stuff in the same locker. So I just waited for them at the lockers and they came off really quickly. And then went and met my mom. She was having trouble with the boys. I was glad it didn't take us long because being underneath was just too loud for the baby. And then it was getting into the day and my toddler was just like having a meltdown. So I felt bad because really we should have just sent her to the baby care center. She would have probably had a much easier time. But yeah, then we headed out. I really wanted to watch the fireworks from the park. My parents were like, no, we just watch them from the room, but I wanted to see the projections and everything. So we decided to go stand at the back of Main Street, like where we had watched the parade. And actually there was like no one back there. It was such a nice spot to watch the fireworks from. And we watched like the first half and then my dad was like, we can go. I would have liked to stay for the end, but we played. And then this was funny. I was like, let's take the monorail back. My dad was like, no, let's walk. And so I was kind of up ahead. And then my parents changed their mind, decided to take the monorail. But my husband was like, we'll just walk. So my parents got on the monorail and we ended up walking. And I was like, I was on the monorail halfway back. I'm like, my feet hurt so bad. I wish you were on the monorail.
But also, if you were going to split up like that, you could have stayed and watched fireworks.
100%. I was like, oh, if I'd known we were going to split up, like we could have stayed and finished watching the fireworks, but it was fine. At that point, my toddler, I bought him a bubble wand and he was so cute with the bubble wand. He loved that thing. A friend of mine before we left told me like, it's worth it. Get the bubble wand. And he was like pointing at people and we'd be like, not random people, us. We weren't letting him like attack people,
assault people with bubbles.
Yes, he was on my dad's shoulders and he just had an absolute blast with the bubble wand. My tip would be get bubble solution on your grocery delivery so that you have more bubble solution.
Because you will run out.
Yeah,
the way that they just hold on to it and let it go, it runs out really fast, isn't it?
Yeah, or if you do what we did on the fall or on Sunday, which is accidentally leave it on in the stroller. Oh, it was just, we used up an entire thing of bubbles while we were in a restaurant.
But also, what a mess.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice the mess. I don't know how, but like it must have just been, it's probably if I washed my basket of my stroller, it's probably covered in bubble solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the end of that day then?
Yeah, so that was the end of Magic Kingdom Day. This was for sure our favorite. It was funny though, because we walked back. We paused, watched the fireworks outside of the park for a little bit and then walked back. And we got on the same elevator as my parents at Bay Lake Tower. So we got on at the first floor and then it stopped at like where the walkway was and they saw us and got on the same elevator.
So I guess in a test of walking versus monorail, it ended up being the exact same.
Well, the walking would have been quicker because we kind of paused and watched
okay.
fireworks for a little bit.
All right.
So yeah,
sense.
walking actually was quicker.
Okay, so the next day was Saturday, May 10th, and you had plans for Animal Kingdom.
Yes. So because Animal Kingdom opened so much earlier, I knew we were not going to rope drop because I think park for early entry opened at 7:30 and we had 2 days of long days. And so we left the room at 8:15. So we drove on our first day, we drove to Disney Springs and we realized that our stroller, we had to like take the seats off to fit it in the trunk of the minivan. So I was like, well, let's just get the bus. And we got there and there was no time posted for the bus. My dad was getting antsy. He was like, let's just drive. And I was like, no, I really want to take the bus because then I don't have to like completely take apart the stroller. Then we don't have to put the kids in the car seat. It'll be fine. And so we did wait for the bus, got the bus at 8:38. So that was quite a wait because we basically got down to their bus stop at 8:15. So it wasn't too bad, but then got to the parks, got through security, and walked back to Kilimanjaro Safari for our 9:30 Lightning Lane, which I think we got there around 10. It said a 45-minute wait, but the line for Kilimanjaro Safaris was all the way out into Africa. So Africa felt very crowded because of the line being there, and then people are coming and going from the line, and it felt very crowded. So then we get to, I just thought that I knew that there was stroller parking in the line for Kilimanjaro Safaris. So I presented for our lightning lane with the stroller, and then they were like, no, you can't bring the stroller through the lightning lane line. So they made us like come back out, park. There was designated lightning lane parking for Kilimanjaro Safaris, like by the line entrance, which I was like, well, maybe the lightning lane doesn't go past the stroller parking. It was frustrating. It does. So then we go through the line. We had to park the stroller. It was very frustrating. We parked the stroller, and then we go through the line, and there's literally stroller parking right there, and there's people standing there. Like, they must know the people that were standing there must be there to make sure that people don't go back in the lightning lane line. But it was just frustrating because it's, well, why can't lightning lane people park their stroller there? Because then when we came off Kilimanjaro Safaris, Owen needed a diaper change, and we had kind of just been changing his diaper in the stroller, but we had to walk all the way back, even though we wanted to do Gorilla Falls, to go get the stroller. So it was very frustrating. We made comment that Disney does so much so good that when they do things that don't make sense, it really stands out.
It does. It makes me think that a parent did not design the system.
No.
Because otherwise the inconvenience of it would be real obvious.
Yeah, because they even tell you on the Kilimanjaro Safari, please go do Gorilla Falls. Gorilla Falls is right there when you come off.
And you definitely need a stroller for that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that was frustrating. And also, we had a miscommunication because I told my parents to taking Teddy through it. And I said, just take your time, we'll catch up with you. But they thought that we meant we'll meet you at the end. And so when we were going through it to catch up with them, I was like, we are going really far. I'm really surprised they've gotten this far through already because we were going really fast. And then I called them and they were like, oh, we were trying to meet you at the end. But my Teddy was hungry while we were going through. Apparently, he told multiple people that he was hungry going through Gorilla Falls, which he had told Goofy when we met Goofy at Magic Kingdom that he was hungry. When hungry, he was just like telling everyone.
He's very focused.
Yes. He can't. There are signs that say don't eat during the Gorilla Falls, and which I'm like, I don't know. So I followed the rules and didn't let him have his snack cup until we were out. So we basically went through that really fast. But yeah, so that whole line thing was a little frustrating. And then, so at this point when we finished Gorilla Falls, it was 10:30 and we had an 11:25 lightning lane for Navi River. And so we decided to basically rope drop Nomad Lounge as it opened. So we went to Nomad Lounge, I think we got 4 different dishes. The food was really good there. We got the chicken satay. There was like a mushroom bao bun. And we got French fries for Teddy because I knew he would eat those. Churros. Like, it was really good. I had a cocktail.
Inside or outside?
We sat inside.
Those seats aren't super kid friendly. So how did your toddler do, I guess?
Yeah, so we sat him on between Tyler and I on the couch, and he kind of just stood. And we did give him a TV to watch at that point. So, not TV, but
screen.
Well, yeah, a screen. And so, yeah, that was really good. Went and did the lightning lane. When we got over to Navi River, the line was really long. We had a lightning lane, though, and the ride was down. So they told us to get in line for a lightning lane, that they were bringing it back up. So we waited quite a long time in the lightning lane ride because it was down. But they were assuring us, we're bringing it back up. They came and scanned our lightning lanes again in line with an iPad so that they were like, it's going to make it quicker so that when we go back up, you don't have to scan again. Got on. Tyler and I had hyped this animatronic. And
oh no, I know it's coming in.
Yeah. We get around the corner because we know that you see the animatronic coming around the corner. And there's a spot where it's supposed to be, and there's not. And I told Tyler, I was like, I think that's where it's supposed to be. And it's not there. There's a screen. And we talked about it afterwards. My parents were like, that screen wasn't even as good as some of the other screens in the ride. Like, the animatronic was just gone.
But that's also why it was down.
Yeah.
right? So that the actual animatronic was gone, and they were like, let's just flip the screen on the B mode so we can get these people on. But
Mhm.
she's kind of the star attraction there, though.
Yeah, because Tyler and I were hyping it because I was like, you come around a corner and you really think that there's a person there. It's that lifelike. And we got this huge display with a screen in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
That was
bummer.
kind of a bummer. And this was like kind of going on the trend of my parents are starting to be like, okay, like rides go down a lot. So yeah, so that was frustrating. We caught off of that. And then my parents decided to get in line for Flight of Passage and we did rider swap. And Teddy still, it was, my husband and I were just going to get cocktails and the Pongalupia. And then Tyler took Teddy. Maybe he needs to change Owen's diaper or something, but he was standing off by the bathrooms. And then he called me. He was like, Teddy still says he's hungry, even though he had some French fries. So I mobile ordered him a cheese quesadilla because we give him cheese quesadillas at home. And I saw that was available from Satuli Canteen. So Tyler and I had our drinks in the Pongo Lupia, got mobile ordered for that, sat inside. Teddy ate that. Tyler and I didn't get any food other than the Pongo Lupia. And we drank inside the Satuli Canteen. And then we got him back in the stroller and he took a nap. And we walked over to the Starbucks because I collect the Starbucks mugs. I already had Epcot and Magic Kingdom, so I didn't need them the first 2 days, but I wanted an Animal Kingdom. So we were like, well, and Owen needed a bottle. So we walked over. Starbucks is next to the baby care center. So Teddy fell asleep on our walk over there. And we were like, we'll just sit in the baby care center, give Owen a bottle. And yeah, so then my parents, which the changing stations were much smaller. I think I mentioned that earlier, but they were like baby size. Wouldn't have been able to change the toddler's diaper on those. Met my parents. They came and met us at the baby care center after their Flight of Passage. Actually, no, we walked back to Avatar and got their perfect timing for when they got off of Flight of Passage. That was really good. And then we went to Festival of Lion King. I think I booked us a fast. I keep saying fast. I'm sorry, Lightning Lane.
Yeah, you've said fast pass the whole time, but we know what you mean. Did you ride Flight of Passage then? You guys child swap?
No, we ended up not. Also, we never used our rider shop for Seven Dwarfs, and we did do Flight of Passage, but later in the day.
Okay, rider
so-
switch, I guess, is the name. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to use the rider.
Yeah, I'm also saying fast constantly. So
No,
which I heard a lot of other people in the park saying fast.
it's a perfect word.
Yes.
Everyone knows what it means.
Yeah. And Lightning Lane is kind of a mouthful because I actually heard somebody speaking a different language use fast pass. Like they're speaking different language,
Yeah.
heard fast pass. Like I've just
And it's so common that people use it generically.
yeah.
Like I went to that store and there was a special line that gave me a little fast pass to the front. People use it.
Yes.
It's such a good word.
Yeah. So we did the Lightning Lane for Festival of Lion King. And then we got off of that and quite a lot of rides were down because of lightning in the area.
Oh, actual lightning.
Actual lightning.
Speaking of lightning lanes.
So actual lightning. And so Everest was down. I think Everest was down that morning too, though. Like it was not clear whether or not Everest was down because of lightning but that morning we went on Kilimanjaro safaris and Everest was down. So I said, let's get on. I really wanted to do Rafiki's Planet Watch because I thought Teddy would really enjoy the petting zoo because we have petting zoos we've done with him and he's really enjoyed that. So we got on the Rafiki's Planet Watch. That was up during lightning. We get all the way there though, and the whatever they call it's like comfort something, whatever they call the petting zoo area, and they've roped all of the animals under the cover and it's closed for lightning. Which I just didn't know that would close because it was not even like raining that much. And I'm also like, goats live outside. Like,
Goats live outside.
I feel like that should be fine. But
Do we know the rate that they're hit by lightning, though?
I'm like, I don't know, maybe. I feel like if we have to shelter the goats from lightning, that would mean that it would be very concerning for just anyone else in the park.
Yeah. Are you gonna wrangle all the humans too?
Like we're wrangling the goats under cover of lightning. We're fine with all of
You know, you have a fair point.
Yeah. But we went in, we met Rafiki, which was fun. So my toddler, Teddy, did really enjoy seeing all of the other animals that were like behind the glass. And then it didn't occur to me that it was Saturday, so there was definitely not going to be vets there because it was a Saturday. But we got to still see it. Just there wasn't any surgeries or anything going on. So yeah, we spent quite a bit of time there because it was 4:00 when we went and did our flight of passage rider switch when we got back. We never made it to Asia or Dinosaur Land because my parents took the boys to the baby care center while we did flight of passage to give Owen another bottle. And while we were in there, the weather got worse and it started raining because my dad did say, let's get ice cream. And I was like, well, there's the Annapurna ice cream truck over in Asia. So we left the baby care center with a plan to do that. And then it started raining more. And my dad's, we're just going to get more wet by walking over there. So let's just call it for a day. So because Tyler and I had our date night this night too. So
yeah, before we move to that, so the reason I brought up Flight of Passage earlier is because I wondered how your experience is on there because you ran into issues with calf size on Tron. Because I feel like Flight of Passage is similar.
Yeah, I had no issues on Flight of Passage.
No issues.
Yeah.
Because
and neither did my mom.
Yeah. And you would think it would be consistent.
Yeah. So actually this morning I watched, maybe it was, I don't know, sometime this week I watched a video because I was kind of frustrated about the whole Tron thing. And I looked up a video of someone that said that, I think it was Paging Mr. Morrow. He has a video when Tron first opened where he didn't fit at first, but then did fit later. And his tip is to actually move your legs all the way back. But the way that when I was on it, it kept feeling like I needed to push my legs further and further forward. But actually, I probably would have been able to fit if I had done his tip of you need your legs all the way back.
So when Flight of Passage first opened, a lot of people had the experiences that you did on Tron, which is they were told they couldn't fit and it was, very awkward and difficult because it's, well, why not? And then I feel like the cast members got better at telling you what to do to make it fit. And it feels like Tron's been open long enough that they would be able to do the same thing there.
The cast member on Tron did come and say, okay, I'm going to help you. But all she did was just push harder. And I was like, ow, that's not going to work.
It's often just about movement, like positioning yourself in the right place.
Yeah,
so pushing to hurt you would not be good.
No, and I had no issue on Flight of Passage at all. Well, it was frustrating because it feels really embarrassing. I mean, I don't know. I get a lot of body conscious and postpartum. And so it felt very embarrassing to not be able to get on Tron.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating. And then I had doubts because I've ridden Flight of Passage before, but I was like, maybe, I don't know, just being body, because I'm the same weight as I was when I'd ridden Flight of Passage before, but I was like, maybe my body weight has just shifted with I've had 2 kids since that last time. And so I was worried getting on Flight of Passage and then had no issues. Yeah.
Well, I hope Tron will get easier.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, so did the rider swap. Yeah, and then we headed out of the park and waited a long time for bus.
So your dad's wish to take the car?
Yeah, we took the car the next day.
Felt like a good one. Yeah. I was wondering when you were debating at the start of this day, if your dad could have just taken the car and you could have just taken the bus, and then you would have had both. And then when you left, you could have done whichever made most sense.
Yeah, we waited a long time for a bus on the way home. And so, yeah.
That's a bummer. But it was date night.
And that was very fun. And I wanted to get my parents settled in because originally I think that by this point they would have realized that it's a lot to take a baby and a toddler to a restaurant. Even I'm their parents and it's a lot. And so originally they were going to take the boys to Rainforest Cafe at Animal Kingdom because also they were struggling with the car seat. So I'm even if they had driven. Yeah. So I'm really glad that they were on board. They brought and we got the boys settled in. My dad walked over to the Contemporary and picked up pizza for Teddy. And then later on, my parents did Steakhouse 71 for themselves to go. They had a good night in. And the weather wasn't good. I thought that they may have been able to bring Teddy to the pool when we were originally planning this out, but the weather was just we did not have good weather the whole trip, really. So,
but you and your husband went to Disney Springs.
Yeah. Oh, so also when we got off of Flight of Passage this day, I had a text from a client saying that she thought her water broke. I only had one client due while I was gone, and I had a backup doula and a backup for my backup doula for that client that was due. The client, and at first I was like, oh, it's her. That's fine. She'll contact the backup doula. I'll just text her. And then I realized it was a client that's not due until end of summer, like months.
Oh, no.
And when I realized it was that client, so that was also, I was like very stressed. At this point, when we got back to the baby care center, I was like dealing with trying to find a backup doula for her and then calling her because she was very panicked. And so what reminded me of that is then we left to go to Disney Springs. It was was a posted 30-minute wait for a bus for Disney Springs. So we decided to take a Lyft. And so while we were waiting for the Lyft, I'm like on the phone with my client, walking her through the process because she had to be transferred to a higher level hospital. As a whole thing. So yeah, that was that kind of also put an end to that day.
Yeah, that is stressful. Did you listen to the trip report about the OBGYN who met with
Yes.
her and she had to plan her trip around this kind of stuff too?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was just like unforeseen circumstances. But yeah, that's kind of the nature of my job.
She might have been a general practitioner, but who
I think she was
deliver
family
babies.
practice.
Yeah. But baby delivery, same thing. You never know when they're going to come.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I was like on the phone with her in the car on the way to Disney Springs. And then we walked over we had them drop us off by Marketplace. By that point, I was off the phone with my client and we walked over to Wine Bar George because we had a Boathouse reservation. Got wine at Wine Bar George. We just got their wine on tap. My husband got the red. I got the rosé. It was very good. I don't like sweet wine. I'm like not a sweet wine person. And I asked, I was like, is the rosé sweet? And I think she thought I wanted sweet. So she was like, no, it's really dry. And I was like, oh, perfect. I will take that then. So I was really happy. I felt like I just assumed that what was going to be on tap and available would have been sweet because I feel like most people like sweet, but they had really good wine, which I guess is to be expected from one. Yeah, their wine options are really good. Went and checked in for our reservation. While we were waiting for our reservation, someone was like being wheeled out on a stretcher, hooked up. This was also a theme of our trip. On our Epcot day, my mom tried to get me to help this gentleman, and I would have helped. I mean, I'm trained in CPR. We were in the Voices of Liberty when we were walking around the World Showcase, and somebody was having a medical emergency, and the only available seat was like next to this guy. So my dad set himself down next to this guy having a medical emergency. And my mom was like, Charlie, he looks really pale. You should check. And then I heard that the person helping was a nurse. And I was like, I am a labor and delivery nurse and now a doula. Like the guy didn't have a uterus. He wasn't pregnant. I'm very helpful. Like I am trained in CPR. When I heard there was another nurse and then the cast member was already there. But yeah, we had like multiple times throughout our trip of seeing people have medical emergencies, which they seem to handle it very well at Disney.
Yeah. But I'm sure that puts you on extra alert. Do I need to help? Do I not?
Yeah, which I don't know. I think other medical professionals feel this way, that like you're like, of course I will help if needed, but it's not what I want to be doing on my vacation. Yeah, so they were already like taking him out on a stretcher at the Boathouse, and we sat down. We had an excellent dinner. We were gonna get steak, but we decided to do the filet sliders. Excellent. It was literally just bread and filet, and the filet just melted in your mouth, the like butter. It felt like having the steak flavored butter sandwich. It was so good. I had the crab cake, also excellent. My husband had the lobster roll. It was so good. And then we left there, walked to Salt and Straw for ice cream. Very good. It reminds me a lot of Jenny's. I don't know if anyone's had Jenny's ice cream. There's Jenny's locations in quite a few different cities. My tip, so at Jenny's, you can try all the different flavors, and they put the flavors almost scoops on a plate. So if you get more than one flavor in a cup, you kind of can eat each flavor. Whereas at Salt and Straw, they just put it all in a bowl. So I got 4 different flavors in my double, But I kind of couldn't tell like which flavor I was eating because it's all just in a bowl. But it was so good.
But sometimes their flavors sound like a whole meal. You
Yeah.
know, like during Thanksgiving, it'll be like turkey and dressing, buttered rolls, all this stuff, and it all mixes up. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it goes together.
Yeah. And then originally we were thinking of going to Summer House on the Lake, which is right there, for cocktails. And we were so tired, we just ended up walking to the bus stop and waited a lot.
Again.
Yeah. But yeah, and then that was that day. We went back. My parents, when we were at dinner, I texted my parents and I was like, can I have proof of life? It said the baby was already asleep, and they sent a picture of Teddy and he was having a really good time. So
it's a good sign they didn't contact you for issues, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So,
the next day was Sunday, May 11th, Mother's Day, and also your last full day, which is planned for Hollywood Studios.
yep. We got there, I want to say we got there just before 9. I wrote that we got in line for Smuggler's Run at 9:20. And at that point,
Was this by car?
yes,
You drove this time?
we drove this time. And that went a lot better. We got a parking spot like right behind preferred parking. And so, yeah, driving, I wish we had driven to Animal Kingdom. Yeah, we drove, went through security, while we were waiting we had gotten through security, and while we were waiting for the tap styles, my mom really had to go to the bathroom, and we didn't see any bathrooms on like that on our side of the tap styles. And I was like, we're not all going to go to the front of the line. Just you go to the front of the line. And I think she said that like the person at the front of the line was like, oh yeah, absolutely go. But the cast member was annoyed that she had done that, because my mom said, I really need to go to the bathroom. The rest of my family is back there. Can I just tap in real quick? And the actual guest was fine with it. The cast member was like giving her a hard time, which was kind of weird. So she did end up going through and went to the bathroom, and we met her there. And also, while we were waiting for her to get out of the bathroom, I went to guest services because I'd been meaning to go to guest services to ask for a refund for our Tron Lightning lanes, since I wasn't able to ride. And then my mom and I are the same size, so she wasn't able to ride with her Lightning lane. And they were excellent. They refunded right away without any questions asked when I explained the situation. So that was nice. And then we couldn't figure out how the memory maker. We knew we had memory maker, but I couldn't figure out like how to get it to work. And so they just really quickly showed us you have to press an activate button. So that was good. And then we started walking back to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and Rise was down.
A theme.
So on the way back, we saw Pluto. We met Pluto. That was really fun. Is it Mandalorian with Grogu that walks around? That was one of the best character interactions with Teddy. Teddy held on to his finger, and they were walking around, and Teddy would not let go. He was just like holding on.
That's adorable. I hope you snapped a pic of that.
Yes. And everyone was gathering, just saying, this is adorable. We had to actually pry Teddy's, because I think, correct me if I'm, I feel like I've heard something that the characters in Disney will like not release from a hug or something like that. And so, yeah, he just stood there. We had to go and like pry Teddy's fingers off his hand.
Yeah,
So,
he was there. He was locked in for
yeah, my
whole
mom
time.
was joking, and my mom was like, so he usually likes to eat around 11. We'll be back at 2 to pick him up, because Teddy was just holding his hand. It was super, super cute. So that was a really fun interaction. And then my parents got in line for Smuggler's Run. What was interesting is they would have let us get a rider swap even if my parents went through a single rider line, which I thought was very interesting. If I had known that, because they already gave us the rider swap passes, and then my parents were talking about doing single rider, and we were having this conversation with the cast members, so it's not like we were trying to be sneaky. And since my parents hadn't ridden it before, I was like, oh, it's go through and ask to be pilots. They ended up not being pilots. I was like, you guys definitely could have ridden in the single rider then if you weren't pilots. But anyway, had I known that, I think I would have said, oh, you guys stay with the boys. Tyler and I'll go through single rider line, and then you guys can use the rider swap to ride together through the fast pass. That would have been a lot quicker. But they waited, and then we went and got a breakfast Ronto wrap and the overnight oats from Ronto Roasters. Excellent. That was really good. My parents were off a lot quicker. I think it was a 50-minute posted wait, and they got off in 40 minutes. And so then Tyler and I went and did Smuggler's Run. And it was a posted 40-minute wait when we got in the Lightning Lane line. And when we got to where the Lightning Lane line merges with the standby line, there was no one there. There was a walk-on at that point. So I didn't understand why it was posted. I put it in my notes because I was like, I don't understand why they said it was a 40-minute wait when there was no one there. We walked through the entire Lightning Lane line.
Maybe that's how long it takes to walk through the queue for the average person because it's such a long queue.
But I was just really surprised because it said 40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was no one in line.
That feels wildly inflated, though.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
20. Okay, maybe. But
Yeah.
40.
There was the person that came by the standby when we got in. There was no one there. We were pilots, not because we asked. We just happened to be assigned pilots. It was very fun. I felt like I did very good. I was the up down. My husband was say.
Up down is superior because you get to pull that lever
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought we did very good. And then we had Alien Swirling Saucers at 10:30, which was tight to get to. And so when we got there, I told them, hey, my parents are going with Teddy because Owen couldn't ride. We also have lightning lanes, but I think we're going to be past our lightning lane window by the time they get off. And they, with a lightning lane, waited 25 minutes because only half the ride was up.
At Alien Swirling Saucers.
Yeah, with a light.
That's a long time.
Yes.
With a toddler.
Yeah. So by the time my parents got to the front, they actually rode the half that was down and they didn't understand why it took so long. And I was like, it's because only half the ride was up for the whole time you guys were in line. So like, again, with rides being down. And yeah, that's a very long time for a lightning lane on Alien Swirling Saucers. So then, because that took so long, now we're running up to our Toy Story Mania Fast Pass. So Tyler and I didn't get to do Alien Swirling Saucers because we had to run over to Toy Story Mania.
And are you taking into account the 2-hour grace period?
I thought there was only a 15-minute grace period.
There used to be. And now it's 2 hours.
Oh, I did not know that.
Okay. I just wanted to ask because I wanted to see if you were being given any grief or anything for showing up. Yeah, it's 2. Yeah, so if it shows 12:30 to 1:30, you can actually show up until 3:30.
That would have been good to know. I'm glad someone else is going to learn that because there were multiple times that I was like, it's okay. We have a 15-minute grace period. Like, we can be late. It would have been, good to know that.
And it'll even turn green. Like,
I actually looked it up too, and like online it said 15, so that's good to know.
Yeah, it used to be 15. Now it's 2 hours.
Yeah, so we did Toy Story Mania. Teddy loved it.
Okay.
Owen was crying the whole time.
Oh.
So my husband did not get a very high score
No, I guess not.
because he was on holding Owen. Or not crying the whole time, but was just fussy. We got off that. Teddy really enjoyed that. And then we had our 11:30 for Oga's. Got over there, checked in, we're waiting. My mom was walking around with Teddy, and then we got the text that our table was ready. My mom got lost because it's not an easy, Galaxy's Edge is not an easy thing to navigate. And I knew that we had 10 minutes from the time they said our table was ready, so I wasn't even going to present to the front desk until my mom was back over. But my dad was like, well, we'll go and tell them your mom's going to be right here. And then it just became like this, like, where is mom with Teddy because they're waiting for us. And then the person was like, well, I can seat you, but you only have 45 minutes. So if I seat you, that's eating in. And then we got in there and half the restaurant was empty. I was like, you guys wouldn't have enforced the 45 minutes because half of Oga's was empty. So it just was like unnecessary stress from the person that sat us that was like.
Yeah, but also the Tap Styles, you had this too. So it feels like sometimes cast members are on power trips.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah, we were joking. My mom was like, I think I would like a job where I get to.
Yeah, but when it's just for no reason, it feels like you're just causing people grief.
There was one of the, I think when we were waiting for Pluto, I think my dad's foot was like halfway over the line. And this cast member was like, you need to stand behind the line. And my dad was like, oh, okay. And I get that they have to do that. That was frustrating my dad quite a bit. And the thing is, I get that they have to do crowd control. If they didn't have cues and they didn't have like ways if they did it, then it would be chaos. But sometimes it does feel a little bit like the cast members are a little too over the top with it. Like the parade, for example, I know that they're told very specifically, you have to be behind the line.
Mhm.
Waiting for the character, we weren't even in the first line. There were 2 lines. We were like behind the second line and his foot just was on the line. And they were like, you need.
But before they had metal detectors at security, every single bag had to be checked manually.
Yeah.
And so I would put all my stuff in clear bags so I could easily pull it out. You could see it and it would make it faster. But
Mhm.
sometimes they would be on kicks where they would be like, take everything out of your clear bag. I'm like, you can see everything. It's like an asthma inhaler. It's a thing of lotion. What do you want?
We had that where I told Tyler, hold your sunglasses case out in front of you. I can't remember what day it was. And he did that and it alerted. And he didn't even have a bag on him. He literally had nothing in his pockets. He just had his sunglasses case held out in front of him. And the person was like, you have to go in the bag check line.
With a sunglass case.
That was held out in front of him. It wasn't like it was in his pocket. He held it out in front of him.
That is wild. Because they should, at the most, just ask him to open the sunglass case to confirm that there's sunglasses in there. And then you
Yeah.
move on.
And that cast member was kept, like, because my husband was just like, it's the sunglasses case that I was holding out. And it was another cast member and the line was quite long for the bag check. It was another cast member that was like, oh, let me just look inside the sunglasses case. You can go. So, yeah. Sometimes it was. And for my parents were getting very frustrated with those kind of interactions.
Yeah, I need it to make sense.
Yeah. And that's where the comment that we were making of Disney does it so well when they don't do it well, it doesn't make sense. And it really stands out. Yeah. So then we got off of Toy Story Mania, went into Oga's. So we did get a booth. We were sharing it with someone else, which also didn't make sense because there were 3 open booths and we were sharing a booth with another party. Again, doesn't make sense. Then they're rushing you. They want you to have know what you want. And they only give you 2 menus for 4 adults. And the cast member, our server was super awesome because my mom was like, hey, just like a tip. Because it's also, yes, the menu's on your phone, but it's not the same menu. So it doesn't have all the pictures. It's not like very clear in the phone what the drink is versus on the picture app menu. And even my dad made a comment, if you could pull up a PDF of the menu on your phone, that would be a lot better for places like that where the pictures really do make a difference.
Or just make more menus.
Yeah. And so then my mom made that comment to the server very nicely, was like, oh, just a tip, like maybe give more menus so everyone has their own menu if you want people to order quicker. And she said, we've not had menus for 5 years because people steal them. Every time we get more menus, people steal them.
Like a souvenir?
Yeah. She said that the problem is that like they get a batch of more menus and then they get stolen. Which I was like,
wouldn't have guessed that.
Then print paper menus, which I get is wasteful. But if people are really trying to take them as souvenirs, then it seems like there are options. Either have the menu available as a PDF, because my dad said that. My dad was like, well, if the PDF is available, then people could print the menu if they really wanted a souvenir. Maybe that would reduce the theft.
What did you order from the 2 menus that you were given?
Oh, my mom and dad both got the blue milk, and which I knew my mom was not going to like that. I didn't know why she ordered it. I think she just asked the server. She doesn't like fizzy drinks, and so she asked the server something that wasn't fizzy, and the server said blue milk, and I was like, no, she's not going to like that. So there, and then my dad wanted to try the blue milk, so he did order it knowing that. So then we got the punch something for Tyler. I hardly had time to look at the menu. I saw something had elderflower in it, and I was like, I'll have that. I did not have time to look at the menu. And then Tyler ordered something. I think he meant to order something with alcohol, and he ordered something, and then it came, and it just, and she was like, oh, the only drink that has alcohol is mine. It looked like I was the only when drinking, Tyler was like, oh, I didn't realize the drink I ordered didn't know, because we literally didn't have time to order. And actually the drinks came while I was gone, because then we realized when we sat down that Teddy had needed a diaper change. And I thought there would at least be like a companion bathroom, like a single stall in Oga's. There's not. I had to go all the way back out to the marketplace to change Teddy's diaper, and then came back into the restaurant. And when I came back, our drinks had arrived. And I did see that the tall tables have high chairs, like really high chairs. And I actually think I would have preferred to have Teddy in a high chair, because he still fits in high chairs, than at the booth, because in a high chair he's strapped down. He can't. Like,
Yes. And he's used to that, like with car seats and
Yes.
strollers and stuff.
yeah, that's why we brought his car seat on the plane too, because he settles down. He's calm. He's not frustrated by being in his car seat because he's used to it. Versus if we were trying to keep him sat on an airplane seat with just the lap belt, that wouldn't have gone well.
Way too much freedom.
Yeah. And he has a booster seat at home, but the booster seat has straps. We did a booster seat at Oga's because we thought that, and realized that the Disney booster seats don't have straps, and it didn't go well, and we asked for high chairs the rest of the time. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, actually, if you have a kid that fits in a high chair, being at the tall tops, if your party doesn't mind, if the adults don't mind standing, probably would have been better. Or if we had our own booth, which if it was busy, I wouldn't have minded sharing a booth, but there were 3 completely empty booths.
This is just a funny image in my mind
Mhm.
of like empty booths and then a bunch of strangers crammed into one together.
Yeah, because we were 4 adults, a baby, and a toddler, and they were at least 4 adults. I think there was maybe 5 adults in their party. So,
I don't get it.
no. So, yeah, so then we left there, and I got a Slinky Dog Fast, or Lightning Lane, at some point. I think maybe while we were on Smuggler's Run, we got it. For 1 o'clock, something, maybe 12:40, something like that. Either way, we left Oga's to head over to Toy Story Land, and that was only the adults could do that one. And so I was like, well, Teddy fell asleep in a stroller, and I was like, while we're standing here, we might as well get in line for the Woody and Jessie meet and greet, which that line was an hour-long line. But I was like, we're over here anyway, and you can get in and out of it very easily, and I didn't mind. I didn't think that people would mind. Everyone else was doing that, getting in and out, because we're going to take the same amount of time as like the group as if it was more people or less people. It's just one greet. So yeah, my mom and Tyler rode first, or maybe I went with my dad. My mom went with my husband, and they rode. So we did that. And then I think I rode first, because then when I came back, I went to go. Woody's Lunchbox did have quite a long mobile order. Like, it wasn't available right away. So while we were waiting, I just went and got in line at Woody's Lunchbox. We did get food at Oga's. It was not good. Wouldn't recommend food at Oga's. And so I was like, well, I'm hungry. Teddy's definitely hungry, because they also didn't have any kids options at Oga's. I thought that it's Disney. I was like, at least we're going to have french fries or mac and cheese for kids. And they did not have any kids food option available at Oga's. So at Woody's Lunchbox, so he was asleep. Or no, maybe he fell asleep after. I don't know when he napped. I think he was asleep, and I got food. But I got like just a grilled cheese, and I just kind of got a few things for the group to share. I got myself a grown-up lemonade that was very good. It was Mother's Day. I was like, I'm gonna have a couple of cocktails. And my husband got the root beer float. I got the punch for Teddy, which Teddy did not like, but my mom liked it, so she drank the punch. Did not get the souvenir cup. It's really expensive for the souvenir cup. So we ate that while we were in line for the Woody. And so, yeah, we got a lot done while we were in line for this character meet. We each rode Slinky Dog, and then waited for Woody's Lunchbox and ate while we were in line.
Yeah, this makes me want to make a list of lines like this, where they're outside and it's easy to come and go. So if you need to go to the bathroom, you need a snack, it's totally fine, because you're just one group.
Yeah.
No matter who's coming and going.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, we're going to take the same amount of time with the character, whether it's 2 of us as adults with the toddler or 4 adults, because we weren't like taking turns doing a ton of photos. But yeah, so yeah, we did that meet and greet, and then we left. No, Teddy was definitely awake this whole time because then Teddy took a nap. After we did that meet and greet, we went back to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge because Rise was up and my parents got in line for Rise of the Resistance. So we literally were just this day, we just bounced back and forth between like Toy Story Land and then my parents got in line. We got a rider switch for later. And while I think I got this mixed up. They got in line. This was actually reversed. We did the Slinky Dog after they waited in line for Rise of the Resistance, and Teddy napped while they were in Rise of the Resistance. So same thing. But while they were in line for Rise of the Resistance, I really wanted to meet Max. Tyler and I are 90s kids, so we went and met Max and Goofy, and Teddy was asleep in the stroller, but Owen was up. So there's a photo of us, the parents, and Owen. Teddy was asleep in the stroller. So he wasn't in that photo and didn't do that character meet. It was for me and Tyler. And then went back. My parents loved Rise of the Resistance. My dad, I could tell, was kind of geeking out over the whole Star Wars thing because, like, that was his childhood. Like, him and his brother were really into Star Wars as kids. And my dad was really impressed with it. Just completely surprised him going to, like, the whole pre-show thing. I don't know. I really feel like there's enough spoilers out there, but anyway.
Walking into Galaxy's Edge with people that are there for the first time who are like your dad is one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah.
Because it feels to them like the movie has come to life. It's so immersive.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty.
I was really glad that they enjoyed that. And then, yeah, so Teddy napped and then we went over. So he was still sleeping when we went over to Toy Story, and what I just said actually happened after. But so then while we were in line for and doing Toy Story Land with this Slinky Dog, it was like 2:00. I knew we had to make a decision about our Hollywood Brown Derby by 3:00 because it was a 5:00 reservation. And so I kind of said to my dad while we were in line, hey, what are your thoughts on, we have a 3:00 Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. What if we just do that, call it a day at Hollywood Studios, we'll go back to the resort, have a chill evening, we can maybe go to the pool, and that'll be the end of the day. And because we also knew, my mom and I had talked, and like Fantasmic was not going to happen with how late it was. And Teddy wasn't really into shows. And he would be into the show, but just even waiting, like the 10 minutes waiting for the show was hard. And then if there's any lulls in the show, that's hard. So while we're in line for Woody's or the Woody meet, we canceled the Hollywood's Brown Derby reservation. And our plan was to get out of line for that. Tyler and I were going to go do our rider swap for Rise. And then my parents were going to walk over to Mickey and Minnie's, and we were going to meet them over there. Mickey and Minnie's, we canceled Hollywood Brown Derby, and Mickey and Minnie's was down.
Of course, I should have seen that coming.
So they were like, well, we'll still head over there. And my mom, at this point, I was like, it's fine. My mom was like, I'm going to go over and talk to them.
She's gonna ask.
She's gonna ask. And so I was like, that's fine. You guys take the boys. We'll go ride Rise of the Resistance with our rider switch. And we walk over to Galaxy's Edge and Rise is down. So we can do our rider switch. So I called them. I knew there was a 3:15 Indiana Jones. So I was like, let's just meet you over Indiana Jones. It was like 3:05 or something, and we'll do Indiana Jones, and then we'll regroup, and hopefully one of them will be back up.
And
so we saw Indiana Jones. It's way shorter than it used to be, and there's no volunteer. I was like, my husband hasn't seen it because it wasn't back yet when we were on our honeymoon. And I was like, you got to volunteer. Like, you got to try and be one of these volunteers. Everyone around me probably was hearing me going, this girl's not up to date. There's no volunteer. And it's way shorter than it used to be. It was nice. My parents did know. I feel like it's more shaded and the fans are new, I think. It was nice. It was a lot cooler than we thought. We were expecting it to be really hot in there, and it was a lot cooler than we were expecting, but the show was way shorter than it used to be. So yeah,
I think it's an important note that if you've been before in the before times, it might be different now.
Yeah. Yes.
Not just Indiana Jones, but other things.
Yeah. And so Tyler thought it was great. He's never seen it.
Yeah, see, that is the thing though, right? If you don't have anything to compare it to, there's no disappointment.
And yeah, so yeah, we got off of that. Neither Rise of Resistance or Flight of Passage were still up. And my parents were pretty upset at this point. And then my dad's, I'm going to just get Frozen stuff because none of the characters that we were looking for his coworker we found. And so I said, well, if you're just going to get Frozen stuff, there's a Frozen gift shop by the Frozen sing-along. So I sent him over there and we went to guest services, because my mom was kind of upset and she kind of wanted a refund for our passes for the day, which I get that they give us an anytime, but also we are really limited in Hollywood Studios with having 2 kids that can't ride anything. So they're like, if we were all older kids, then it would have been like, oh, okay, we can just take the kids on any of these other rides. But there's 2 or 3 rides that we can do there.
Mm-hmm.
And Mickey, especially with Mickey being Teddy's favorite. And so my dad was like, well, I really want to do, my dad's a big ice cream fan. So he was like, well, why don't we try and do I want an old fashioned ice cream place. We can go anywhere in Orlando. We have the car. Let's do that. And then I suggested we do Beaches and Cream because it's right there. And so when we were in guest experience, they didn't really want to refund the Lightning Lane. And I really wanted to ride Mickey and Minnie's. The weather was coming in. And so I said, why don't we get on a boat to Beach Club? We'll go to Beaches and Cream. It says that it's like a 10-minute walk up wait for our party size. And then when we finish, hopefully Mickey and Minnie's will be back up and we can pop in. And so that kind of appeased my mom. She was like, okay, because she could see that I really wanted to do Mickey and Minnie's with Teddy. So we were like, okay, we'll give it some more time. So we did that, got on the boat. I did not know this. And this is on the boat. When it finally let me check in for the walk up, it gives me the notice that walk up is at the bar, not at the table. I was like, shoot, I totally made that mistake. I didn't know it wasn't going to be a table. And I was like, that's not going to work for our party to be at a bar. And so when we got off the boat, I took off and speed walked. And I pleaded with the people at the check-in table. I was like, it took a lot of convincing to get my whole party on a boat to come over here because I saw the walk up and it didn't give me that notice until I checked in, and they did find a table because it was like 4:15-ish at this time. And I was like, we only want ice cream. We're not even having dinner. And the restaurant was mostly empty at that point. So they said, well, it's going to be a 30-minute wait, which again was like, there's no one even waiting for tables. Well, it's a 35-minute wait for a table when it just doesn't make sense. So we went and gave Owen a bottle in the lobby of the yacht club while we were waiting for our table and came back. And then by the time we came back, then it was really busy. It's like 5 o'clock by the time our table was called. And I was like, the whole restaurant was empty.
And you're like, you could have gotten us in and out.
Yeah.
But right now.
And then this was also a point where having the menu at the restaurant does make a difference because my dad really wanted a banana split. And he looked at the menu on the phone and banana split was not on the menu. But then when we sat down and had the menus that they had at the restaurant, banana split was on their menu. So the menu that you get at the restaurant doesn't always match up with the online one. So yeah, my dad ordered a banana split and a malt. I did order food for Teddy and all of us got shakes. So Teddy got mac and cheese, which he loved. And then, yeah, so we had a really good experience there. But then while we were in the lobby at the yacht club, I noticed a lot of people talking about weather coming in. And I checked the forecast and it was like heavy rain was coming in. And in the back, the whole time we were at Beaches and Cream, I had in the back of my head, because again, my dad wanted to drive from Hollywood Studios to Beach Club. And I was like, let's take the boat because then the car will still be at the front of the parking lot. I won't have to collapse the stroller. And then the whole time we're eating, I'm going, they're going to shut the boats. Back to our car. Mickey and Minnie's did come back up. So the plan was, and also while we were in Beaches and Cream, I realized I hadn't gotten my Starbucks mug. And so the plan was that we were going to go into Hollywood Studios, ride Mickey and Minnie's. And then Tyler and I went and did our rider switch for Rise because Rise was also back up. then my parents were going to go get my Starbucks mug, and they were going to take the boys back to the car while we did our rider swap. That plan worked out really well. I was calling a minivan because the bus was not going to happen. I was calling a minivan when my dad realized that the boats were back up. So we walked up. So I canceled the minivan, wasn't charged because we hadn't even been assigned a driver yet. Walked over to the dock to get the boat. And then, fortunately, I had already packed our stroller in a way to collapse it because I knew we were either going to get in a minivan or a bus. Because then we're getting on the boat. There were no other ACVs or wheelchairs or strollers getting on, but because it had just been at Epcot, he goes, I don't have room for the stroller. You're going to have to collapse it. And he was like, get the next one. And my dad did make a good point. He had no way of knowing that the next boat would have room for a stroller either, because this boat also just came from Epcot, and it's not like any more strollers got on at our stop. So I was like, please, like, I have everything ready. We can collapse this. So we collapsed the stroller. Okay. Got on and got on the boat, and then got over to Hollywood Studios, and our plan worked really well for doing Mickey and Minnie's, which was fun because my mom, when we were waiting in line, she was like, oh, it's probably the same ride vehicles as the Great Movie Ride, right? Because she was kind of expecting the ride layover from Frozen. And I just kept being like, you're going to have to see. But they had no clue. Like, they had no
A little different.
spoilers. Yeah, very different. And yeah, so that was really fun. And we did really enjoy that ride. And my dad made a point. He was like, that's so fun that like a kid Teddy's size can go over a waterfall. Like, that ride is just excellent. I was really happy we got to go back and do that. And then they had a little trouble. We didn't make note of where the car was, so they had some trouble finding the car. So if you are going to drive, note where your car is. But we went and did Rise of the Resistance, and the first pre-show was down. So that's why Rise was back up, is they had us like walk around, and then we just walked in a hallway into the Stormtrooper room. So that was a bit of a bummer too, because it's kind of like a big part of understanding the story.
Maybe they were like, well, in order to bring this ride back up, we have to do.
Yeah, and I was just glad that my dad and mom, since they hadn't ridden it before, they got the full experience. But it was okay, just another ride. Yeah. And then that was it for the day. On the way home, my dad ordered Domino's for us because we hadn't had dinner yet, and so I was fine with that. I was like, that's fine. So we had Domino's. We were all pretty exhausted. I noticed my parents were a little slower on the last day than they had been. We got a lot in 4 days.
Yeah, it is a lot. Long days.
Yeah.
And you didn't like really have breaks like you thought you might.
No.
So it was pretty solid from morning till evening.
Yeah.
Okay. But Monday, May 12th was your departure day, but you had Topolino's breakfast. Did you keep that reservation?
Yeah, we did. And we went to that. That was excellent. The food was we said there was the best food we'd had the whole trip. We had, Ashley was our server. Excellent service. The whole dinner service, I actually did a cast compliment for her because, yeah, the service was excellent. And I kept asking, I think it was another restaurant we ate at, Ohana. I asked if they do both breakfast, the servers do, and it seems like they kind of either train to dinner service or breakfast service. Yeah, so she was saying how she doesn't do dinner because she was explaining she really likes like the traffic better for getting there for breakfast. And it was nice chatting with her. It was a really good experience.
Ohana and Topolino's are a interesting comparison because they both have character meal for breakfast and then non-character meal for dinner. So
yeah,
that is interesting because they're very different sort of experiences.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then did you go from there to the airport or did you have to go back to the hotel?
We went from there to the airport. So everyone was really crammed into over there. My parents really liked that resort too. They made note that they really liked it because when we were walking around Yacht Club and Beach Club, which it was under construction, so it wasn't like, but my parents just said that the Yacht and Beach Club felt like it was all hallways, like in very tiny lobby. They really liked the Riviera.
Riviera doesn't have a lobby though.
Yeah, I know, but they just they really liked it. I don't know. It's a nice hotel. So.
Yeah, lots of people do love it, but if you like a lobby, you're going to be disappointed there because that's not something they really have.
Yeah.
So anyway, then you went home.
Yeah. Then we got home. Flight went, really well on the way home. We didn't use screens on the flight to Disney, but my toddler did also fall asleep. By the time we were home, I was like, that's not happening. But yeah. And then he fell asleep, not even while we were landing, while we were taxiing back to the gate. Teddy fell asleep. That was like really funny. But and then it was a pretty easy process. We found out where we went for the hotel shuttle that took us back to our car.
And it's really obvious how comfortable you are with babies because a baby has entered our conversation and you didn't skip a beat.
Yeah, my husband had to get back to work, so I've got the baby and then our toddler is still sleeping, so hopefully they'll stay sleeping. But
yeah, we just talked for 2.5 hours and managed to fit it all in. So
yeah.
Anything else before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. We had a really good trip. It was it's fun to actually kind of recap it because we got so much done. The sun blanket for Owen was really good. So sun was a really big concern for us for a 4-month-old because you're not supposed to use sunscreen less than 6 months. And so when we booked this trip, I actually reached out to our pediatrician. We have a really good relationship with our pediatrician. And she reached out to a pediatric dermatologist that lives in Arizona. And they said that she gave us the all clear that it was okay to use mineral-based sunscreen. So we did use sunscreen, but we also had a lot of cloud cover for most of the trip because of the weather. So it kind of worked that when it was sunny, we used the sun blanket, but we also brought a parasol, but the parasol was kind of hard. I felt to make sure that you had shade on the front, like it was good for getting shade on the head of the person holding the umbrella, but to make sure it was like fully shaded, I felt like you had to like hold it out in front of you, which was not ideal for walking around.
If you send me the link to the sun blanket that you used, I'll be happy to link to it.
Yeah. We also, I think in the pre-trip, I talked about the tattoo for Teddy that it like fell off halfway through the first day and I never bothered putting more on. And then the air tag also. So the air tag that we got, it works kind of like a store magnetic security tag where you needed a magnet to undo the pin. It got stuck on his shorts. I couldn't get the magnet to work, so it's still on there. I don't know how to get it to get off because the magnet that came with it is not working.
That's intense.
Yeah, our plan changed to just don't lose the toddler, and it worked.
Because did you also say you might have a leash that you attached to him?
Yeah, and we never ended up he listens really well, better than I was anticipating. And we never ended up using the leash either.
Yeah, but you didn't lose him, so good news.
That was the plan. Don't lose the toddler, and that worked.
Well, I appreciate you navigating the baby, the toddler, your parents, and keeping notes so that you could do this.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time, Charlotte.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
I hope you enjoy my conversations with Charlotte. I do want to mention a few links that I included in the show notes for this episode that were kind of referenced in this one. One of them is what to do while you're rider switching. Like you notice that she did things nearby, and I think that's super important for people to know before they go. Also about where to park in Disney Springs, our navigator that helps you get between any 2 points at Disney World, and also the sun blanket that she mentioned that she used for her infant. We did keep chatting afterwards for the after chat, and that included her work as a doula and a nurse and other things related to her trip that weren't mentioned in this podcast. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep To Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, WDWPrepSchool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 462. Until next time, I will see you on the site.